So today's video is going to be a tier list for heroes in Turbo mode. So if you're not familiar, there's this alternate game mode called Turbo, which is basically Dota for crackheads, and I'm going to have a couple of videos coming out this week that is dedicated to it. I like Turbo a lot. I think it's very fun. I don't want it to replace normal Dota, but I enjoy it quite a bit. And one of the things that any seasoned Turbo veteran will tell you is that heroes have very different balance in Turbo relative to the normal game. Now, as far as I know, Valve doesn't give a shit about Turbo. They don't make balance changes for Turbo the way that they will for like ability draft, for example. But there are heroes that are like bad in normal Dota, but really good in Turbo, and vice versa. And more importantly, there's a lot of hero builds that really work in Turbo and are like real and are total like grief meme shit in the actual game of Dota 2. And so what this tier list hopes to do is it hopes to rate all of the heroes based on how much better or worse they become in Turbo relative to the base game. So this is assuming that every hero would be like in same but different, this tier here. This is like the same as they are in normal Dota. Turbo All-Star is like much better than they would usually be. Supersonic Racing are like the Primarchs of Turbo. And there's probably going to be maybe 10 heroes up here. Not so good is heroes that get worse in Turbo, but like you can do it. And then go back to ranked is like, no, you don't play this hero in Turbo. And there's going to be around 10 to 15 heroes in here. There's some heroes that really suck in Turbo. Just due to the nature of their kit, or the nature of the items that they buy, or the build, or the play pattern. There's a couple different reasons why heroes can be better or worse in Turbo, and we'll be going over them. Diversity of build matters quite a bit as well. So that's going to matter quite a bit when we get to Ancient Apparition, and you're going to learn. If you haven't played Turbo, like, you go in there and you see AA mid, and you're like, this is dumb cheese shit, and then you're like, oh my god. He really gives the business. He'll give you the full corporation if you play in Turbo against AA mid. So hopefully this understands, or you're able to understand, like, the idea of the tier list, and then the tiers themselves I've explained as well. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. And honestly, Abaddon is like pretty shit in Turbo. I feel bad because this would be 2 tier lists in a row where Abaddon is first on the chopping block and immediately gets sent to the bottom tier. The thing is, like, it is bad. One of the things that can make you a worse hero in Turbo is a lot of your abilities are just like items you can buy. Because it's so much easier to buy items, especially like specific stuff. And that's going to affect a lot of heroes like Huskar. But with Abaddon, it's like, yes, you do have your Purge with the shield, and that's a great thing. But also, like, you can buy a BKB after farming for like 2.5 minutes in Turbo. That's a slight exaggeration, but like, you get the idea. Is like, you can buy a lot of the things that Abaddon gives you very quickly. And then Abaddon himself, as a support, is like, he's not that good at doing, like, pulling is a really big deal in Turbo. Because you're denying the equivalent of like 2.5 waves or 3 waves or something like that in terms of golden XP. Abaddon is really bad at jungle management. He is alright in lanes, but he also doesn't contribute to grinder lanes, which is another important element of Turbo. So from a support perspective, a lot of Abaddon's strengths are not that great, and his weaknesses really matter. And then as a core, it's like, there's no point. Like, Abaddon really likes a long game where it's like slow and plodding, and he gets time to like, it's like a very delayed tempo style of core. He doesn't really get to do that in Turbo. Especially because Radiance isn't quite as good in Turbo as it is in normal Dota for various reasons, but he's going to go down here. It's a shame to say. Now, you may think that Alk would also be down here for the same reason, because Hisselstick is having a shitload of money. But Alchemist is actually not that bad in Turbo. He's not good. He's definitely worse relative, because the money that he gets isn't that big of a deal. With Alchemist, you're getting a flat bonus amount of gold per last hit. But you're already getting so much more golden XP per last hit that it doesn't make as big of a difference. One of the big things, though, is that you take advantage so much of having access to all of that extra gold because your hero design is in a way that it sort of amplifies your items. Like, you get the lower BAT and all the regen and the attack speed from your ultimate, so that means that every point of attack speed you're able to buy and every point of damage you buy is like higher impact than every other hero. Or almost every other hero, I should say. So his primary feature is worse, but his character design is suited for an environment where there is a shitload of golden XP. So he's a not so good. Ancient Apparition, is he Turbo All-Star or Supersonic Racing? This hero is just like, I'm going to put him up here. This is like kind of a weak one, though. I did just talk about how insane he is to play against. The thing about AA, right? A lot of supports, when you look at them from a theoretical lens, you think to yourself, like Bane is another example of this. You think to yourself, like, oh, this hero could work as a core because they have, a level 20 talent, or they have an Aghanim Scepter, or sometimes a level 25 talent. And you think to yourself, like, okay, this could totally work as like a tempo core if you play him as a pause 2 or a pause 3. And in normal Dota, the gap is just so big because Ancient Apparition cannot farm an Aghanim Scepter. He can't do it. Ice Vortex is not enough. But in Turbo, he's able to dominate the lane because of Chilling Touch being so good. And being able to dominate a lane in Turbo is huge because it's so much easier to snowball because all of the XP and gold advantages you get are basically tripled on top of what they would be in a normal game. So he's able to dominate lane, farm until he has like Witchblade Aghanim Scepter, and then he just walks around killing people, and it's really hard to deal with. He is a really big menace in Turbo, not to mention his ultimate, which just shuts down a shitload of heroes. Like, yeah, go ahead, buy a Satanic at 12 minutes. see how much good that shit does for you. AA is very good. He is one of the heroes who benefits by far the most from having access to these insane golden XP values. It used to be really meta for a long time for this hero to go Midas because of how important those things are in him and how hard it is to get them. Turbo solves that problem just as a manner of the mechanical changes of the mode. So he goes in Supersonic Racing, SSR. Anti-Mage is like, I mean, he's good. Playable for sure. One of the cool things about Turbo as well is the draft actually impacts hero viability quite a bit. Because you're not able to see any heroes on the enemy team unless you like double pick them, in which case it just reveals them, which is very funny. It doesn't do the whole rigmarole of like banning them. It's like whoever picked Pudge first gets to play Pudge. So you got to be quick on the draw. Anti-Mage sort of benefits because he is like a pretty scary hero to blind pick into for a lot of other heroes, but he doesn't have a whole ton of like super insane counters. Meanwhile, if they pick like Bristleback or Zeus or like Skywrath Mage or OD or like God forbid fucking Medusa, you're just cooked. But like Anti-Mage doesn't really care that much about any heroes that they pick. Like obviously he has counter picks, but it's not that big of a deal. So he benefits a lot from the draft, but his like mechanical identity doesn't benefit too much from the increased golden XP because one of his things is like he's so good at getting it anyway. It's a little bit like Alk in that capacity though, because your kit is just so good. Like Blink is so amazing. Mana Break is such an insane ability that it amplifies the items you buy. He's same. He's same, but different. A little different. Arc Warden is pretty bad. He does dominate lane, which is really good. He wins the vast majority of his lane matchups, which is awesome. The problem is that like Hand of Midas sort of traps you in your build because you need to go Midas on this hero. You don't have the option not to go Midas, and Midas is a shit item in Turbo. Farming items on balance are like, it's not that they're bad, but it's like they're not as good. You know, in Turbo there are games where you get like 6-minute Turbo, like a Turbo Fast Battle Fury, and it's like this is cool, but it doesn't guarantee you a one game. Meanwhile, in ranked, if you get like an 11-minute Battle Fury on Jug, it's like, okay, I win. Like you just sort of checkmate the enemy team by nature of accelerating your farm so fast. Turbo doesn't really work the same way. But you still need to go Midas, and it's shit, and you're really limited by your cooldowns. That's the other thing, is like having really long cooldown spells is bad in Turbo because the game is just shorter. You don't have as many opportunities to use it. So Arc Warden being pigeonholed into buying Midas really hurts him. And his like whole gold and XP advantage thing doesn't matter that much. You get to level 30 very fast, but like it's not that big of a deal. He goes in not so good. Axe is fantastic in Turbo. This is a very good hero. Similar to Anti-Mage, there's a lot of heroes that are terrified of picking into an Axe. Medusa is one of them. If you don't know to buy actually, amendment. In one of the previous videos, I talked about how Axe can just dunk on Medusa as soon as he hits level 6, unless you went out and bought a Gauntlet of Strength. Someone, this guy's a genius, I can't remember who did it, actually said, you don't buy Gauntlet, you buy 2 Blood Grenades because it's cheaper. And it is, and it gets you over the threshold because it's 100 HP. They're 50 each. So if you're playing Medusa against Axe, buy 2 Blood Grenades instead of buying a Gauntlet of Strength. Oh, it's so funny. Or, just Dread Switch. But you get the idea. Axe is a absolute terror for a lot of enemy heroes to play into. Anti-Mage is like kind of one of them. Arc Warden, it's terrifying to play against Axe. Alk, it's terrifying to play against Axe. There's a lot of heroes that really don't like playing into him, and like Axe can have bad lanes. You know, you go up against like a dual range and it sucks. But you can also jungle and you get back into the game. You can buy a Blink and a Blade Mail fairly quickly, even if the lane is shit as this hero. And you can contribute quite a bit. And you're an amazing team fighter, and you have an infinite scaling mechanic that isn't like time gated because your ulti refreshes itself. So he's a very good hero to play in Turbo. Fun. Bane, shades of AA, but I don't think he's quite as good. Mid Bane is like awful. Oh my god. You have the facet that gives you attack speed whenever you nightmare someone, and then you just right click the shit out of them. That's a facet now, right? You do that, you get like you go like 1-1-1, and then depending on the mid lane matchup you're in, this is playing as a pause 2 Bane, you can max like pretty much any of your abilities and you'll probably win. The problem with him is that like, well, he might be same but different because like support Bane is a lot shittier. If you're relying on your ulti in order to do things as Bane, he's worse. But if you're going all in on like a meme Bane core build, he's actually really good. Like frighteningly good. It's weird. You kind of don't have to buy damage. Like, he's really fun to play. I'm gonna leave him in Turbo All-Star, but like support Bane is shit. But you like unlock a whole new degree of core Bane, which I think is like on the verge of being a thing in normal Dota too. It's really good. Plus you can get Ags, and then you can use your Ags, or you use your ultimate and you don't have to care. Batrider. The right-click Batrider build is like pretty good. And that's sort of what you go. I think he is same but different. But there's some advantages to being a Turbo Batrider as well. You know what I mean? He's gonna go in same but different, but like, you know, it's sort of up to interpretation on him depending on what build you go. Beastmaster. Getting an 8-minute Aghanim Scepter is very funny on this hero. But I don't think it necessarily makes him better. And Zoo, on balance, is worse in Turbo. It sounds like it would be better, right? You just Deathball, but like you can't, actually. I mean, you can Deathball, but like Zoo is not the driving engine that it used to be. And his ulti is like a really long cooldown. It is high impact, though. Interestingly enough, so he's going to go in not so good, but he barely makes him not so good. You could put him in same but different. The reason I'm putting him here is because since golden XP bounties are like increased in Turbo, that actually applies to player summon units. So if you feed a boar in Turbo, you're feeding a lot. It's like feeding 3 boars. I don't know the exact multiplier for golden XP. I know they're slightly different, but you feed any kind of zoo element, like God forbid you get Helm of the Dominator and you feed like a fat ancient creep and they get like 1200 gold or whatever. It's just I don't think it's nearly that much. It's like 900. It's just a stupid amount, and the XP is insane. So like you're kind of risking some stuff when you go Beastmaster and other zoo heroes in Turbo. Bloodseeker, pretty good. You gain access to your All-Star might be a strong word for this here, but you get the idea. You gain access to like your zenith of power very quickly as Bloodseeker, and you make very good use of it, and fights are happening all the time. Another thing to note about Turbo is that like people are here to bang. Like they're not here to like fuck around in the jungle for 30 minutes and see what happens. Like people are here to team fight. And you as a Bloodseeker with your Radiance that's boosted by your Q, you can fuck around in the jungle while other people are like letting those choppers sing, and you benefit directly from it, which is really nice. So I think he goes in Turbo All-Star, and you hit that point where like you go like Basher, Radiance, Sanjinyasha, BKB, and you can just come out and like kill people like crazy. And Rupture is also very good. Sort of a side effect of Turbo is like people like high mobility heroes. Understandably, they're fun to play. So he counters that as well. Bounty Hunter mid against a melee matchup is like actually supersonic racing. It's so good. Mid bounty is insanely good, and because it unlocks like a whole new way of playing him in Turbo, I do think he goes in Turbo All-Star. The problem is like your Janata mechanics aren't boosted. So the gold steal, you're stealing the normal amount of gold from them. You don't get a bonus because of the bounties being tripled. That would be insane. He would be in Supersonic Racing because you're stealing 3 times the gold too. But don't worry. If you're playing against Bounty Hunter, he is not going to steal like, what, 70 gold whenever he hits you with Janata or some shit. So that's not going to happen. And it sort of detracts from his mechanic, but he's still so good as a mid laner in this mode that I want to put him Turbo All-Star, even though a massive mechanic of him is nerfed. Like, because that affects the track gold as well. You get the normal amount of track gold. It doesn't come up. Brew. High impact ulti. Pretty good lane. I'm gonna be real. I cannot remember the last time I saw a Brewmaster in a Turbo match. He's sort of the antithesis. Like anyone who plays Brew is not interested in playing Turbo. But on the off chance you pick him, I think he's like fine. Um, I talked a little bit about Zoo earlier and that being bad, and Brewmaster is like an honorary Zoo hero. He is a bear. Bears be at the zoo. I'm gonna put him same but different. But I'm not 100% sure about him. I'll say sort of antithetical to the mode. This whole hero's Dilio. Bristleback is good, but one of the problems with Turbo is like if you're a hero that is countered by a very particular item, in Bristleback's case being Break, it is way easier for the enemy team to buy that item. Like the enemy core will be going Silver Edge pretty early on. And there's not a whole lot preventing them from doing so because even if you like shut off a lot of their jungle, they just farm the money tunnel for a while and then they can have a Silver Edge and then they kill you. And he can be really good. Very strong hero. If you have a really good lane and you're able to snowball out of that, he's very good. But the answer to you is so much easier to get. There's a couple of heroes that are going to be affected by that. Huskar later on is going to be another one. One of the fun things about Broodmother, though, is that there isn't really an item that can help you too much against this hero. The item is MKB. You actually have to go MKB against this hero. But, again, Zoo is not nearly as good. And then one of the things about Broodmother is that her scaling sort of caps out with the Spiderlings, and then she just becomes a right-clicker. And there's other heroes that are much better at right-clicking, and they can buy an MKB. I think she's also not so good. I've seen some Broodmothers. They get a good lane. They can take your tier 2 at like 9 minutes, which is terrifying to play into. But hey, sometimes that's the way it's going to be. But on balance, I'd say she's worse overall. And then if you do have an answer for a Broodmother, it's food. Centaur Warrunner. I feel like he's better. We're going to change the name of this to Turbocharged, I guess. We might change it again because that's not clever enough for me. Yeah, the thing with Centaur is like the zenith of power for him is something that is like very difficult to hit in normal Dota. And a lot of times if you're playing a Centaur, you don't necessarily feel that tanky until you get like Pipe and Crimson and Heart and Shard and Blink and like you need everything. And the hero scales so well off of strength because of Retaliate and your W. I do think that he's like significantly better. It's just that he has some of the same problems as Axe, and he isn't as good at recovering. So there are some downsides to him, but he's another offlaner that I think is really good in Turbo. So we'll put him in Turbocharged. CK is hilarious in Turbo. I think he's up here too. it's that power spike of like Blink, Armlet. That's it. You go Blink Armlet on this hero because he's a carry who you don't really want to go a farming item on. And that's a big benefit because a lot of the farming items aren't as good in Turbo relative to how good they are in normal Dota. Obviously, a lot of heroes still have to buy them, but there's a reason Arc Warden is down and not so good. CK is a carry who doesn't have to go a farming item. He can just immediately come out the jungle like with his pants around his ankles like, here I come! And no one likes that. I'm sorry for saying that. Supports will get fucked up by CK very early on with very minimal farm, and that's great. And he's very good at making grinder lanes. You pair him up with like a Dazzle or a Crystal Maiden or like a Shadow Shaman, and good night. Have fun in hell. 10. When have I ever seen a Chen in Turbo? Actually, no, I do. One of the funny things about Turbo, and one of the reasons people have been playing it a little bit more lately, is in order to get all of the stickers in the Atlas. And so people are just like picking Chen and hoping their team carries them in Turbo. Which is a very funny thing to do. I had a friend who I basically had to teach him how to play Chen because he needed it for the sticker Atlas and he wanted to get it done in one game. And I was like, go the Hellbear Facet and just feed the yellow one over and over again. And he was like, damn, bro, this hero's kind of nuts. I was like, yeah, dude. You want to win on Chen once in Turbo, just pick the Hellbear Facet and do that. Zoo is nerfed. He doesn't really fit the tempo of the game mode. I am working like off of just ideas right now. He might honestly go back to ranked. Yeah, I'm gonna put him down here. And of course the bounties again. When you're taking over those jungle creeps, and you're gonna be taking over a shitload of them. Whenever they die, they feed a shitload of gold, which is a a bad thing to happen. And a lot of Chen's kind of benefit is like that just ever so slightly past the landing phase, showing up with your little horde army and taking a tower. But like the tempo of Turbo is such that you don't really get to enjoy that power spike the same way as Chen. And then you come back later and you're an insane healer and you have a bunch of utility with all the creeps too. But he's go back to ranked. I think it's funny that these two heroes are next to each other, by the way. Clinkz is pretty good. He's pretty good. Even before the rework, I thought that Clinkz was like a very turbo viable hero. One of the reasons that Clinkz is so good is because in Turbo, the melee racks do have regen, but the Ancient does not. So if you get into situations where like you have megas, but it's just impossible to win the fight, you can quite literally throw bodies at the enemy Ancient until it eventually dies. Like if they don't have a Lich with level 25, or a Treant Protector with living armor, or a Legion Commander to win duels next to it to proc Moment of Courage on the Ancient. And even if you do, that is not a viable strategy. You can just whittle shit down. And that's part of why like Clinkz and Nature's Prophet and stuff like that. Nature's Prophet is going to be in Supersonic Racing, I'll tell you that right now. Those kinds of heroes are very good for closing out games. And then Clinkz just dealing a metric shitload of physical damage is nice. He has a decent lane as well. Glockwork, because he has a gun. He's not. I think he's okay. He really needs the right lane partner in general, like not even in Turbo. And then with Clockwork, the dream is you just have like Aghanim Scepter and Blade Mail and Ashibas, and you're able to just like go in and bother the fuck out of people. But even in like the magical Christmas land of Clockwork, where you get infinite golden XP, you're still not winning the game outright for your team. And that's you kind of want that in Turbo. So we're going to put him in same but different. Crystal Maiden is great in Turbo. She benefits from a lot of the same things that Bane and AA do. The thing is, you don't play her as a mid. You still play her as a pos 5. She is an amazing complement to many grinder lanes, which is a huge deal in Turbo. But the biggest thing is that it's so much easier to go the evil baby build on Crystal Maiden. So you go Arcane Boots, or not Arcane Boots, blah. You go Tranquil Boots into Blink Dagger, into like BKB or Ags, depending, or Glimmer Cape usually, and then one of those items, and then you go the other one. And at that point, you're level 20 and you can just blink in and win a team fight on your own, because it's really difficult to deal with a Crystal Maiden who has all of that shit. You go Aghanim Shard 2 for the mobility. And so, like, you can kind of 1v5 as Crystal Maiden in Turbo. Like, it shouldn't be your default strategy, but being an evil baby in Turbo is such a good idea with Crystal Maiden. And it's very fun and it's very high impact. Turbocharged. Couple supports like that. Darkseer, man. I don't think he's that good in Turbo. The thing about Darkseer is like a lot of his scaling just comes from his spells. You can right click people as Darkseer, but like, is that really what you picked the hero to do? Like, are you gonna go Harpoon? Like, no. So you have really good talents, and Wall of Replica is crazy. It is a very good spell in Turbo because everyone's turbocharged. But in like the philosophical realm, it's not any better than it is in normal Dota. And then on top of that, like, you usually don't outright win the lane super hard as Darkseer unless you have like a Spirit Breaker or someone to like combo with the Ion Shells. If you do that, it's pretty good. But because your scaling sort of caps out at a lower level than a lot of other characters, because you scale almost entirely based on your spells, I'm gonna put him in not so good. But he's definitely playable. Definitely playable. Dark Willow. It's Supersonic Racing for sure. It's the same thing as AA. The thing about Dark Willow is like she's a little bit closer to being a legitimate core in normal Dota. Like, you play enough ranked, get out of here, Fiverr advertisement, not sponsored. You play enough Dota, you will find people who play Dark Willow mid, and it's a big deal to them. And they love their Witchblade and their Aghanim Scepter and their Moon Shard, and they love it. And it's great. It's good to like things. Not always good to have people who like things on your team, though. It can be a little frustrating if you're not, like, winning the game and you have a mid Dark Willow. Turbo takes all of those concerns out because you don't have to rotate until you have your Ags, which is awesome. It's really good for Dark Willow, and the amount of damage that she can deal is just monstrous. So, like, you go Witchblade for the slow and the damage over time, and then your in-scaling is, like, pretty good, and you just slam people with Shadow Realms over and over again, even though you're not an int hero. It's very, very good. It is a very legitimate strategy, and it scales like a mother. Supersonic Racing. Your only problem is the cooldown on Shadow Realm. But just having that strong of an offensive and defensive tool wrapped up into one that you can entirely build around is like asking for this hero to be broken in Turbo. Dazzle. He's fine. he's he's alright. He doesn't have to worry about ulti cooldowns or cooldowns at all, really. I think he's in same but different. He contributes to a lot of grinder lanes, but he doesn't have the same upside that like Crystal Maiden has, where she can just win the game on her own. Dazzle can't really do that. Core Dazzle is probably also, I don't know if it'd be better or worse in Turbo. I guess it depends entirely on the lane matchup, but like obviously, you're going up against some shitty melee pooper. It's probably, I mean, you win the lane harder, but then you also fall off faster. So I guess you just have like a bigger power spike. A funny little side effect of playing Turbo is that you feel what mid used to feel like. Like, back in the day, it was like you would have a significant golden XP. Well, not a gold, but you would have a very significant XP advantage over the heroes in the side lanes when you played mid. And that has kind of been dialed back over the course of these years. And like the midness of heroes has been more built into their kits. And like Dazzle is a funny example. Or Dazzle. Turbo is like a funny way of experiencing what it was like to play mid back in like 2015. When you would go to the side lanes and you would just be this raid boss at like 12 minutes, or like even earlier than that, and you were really difficult to deal with. Turbo sort of recreates that experience because the gap in the golden experience values is tripled. Therefore, the gap in any amount of increased XP a hero has is going to be tripled as well. Anyway, Death Prophet. Death Prophet. She's green. She's lean. She's mean. Ulti cooldown sucks. I don't know. I don't know about her. I mean, the thing about DP is like you can get to like Shiva's Octarine really fast, and then you're just this like walking ball of go fuck yourself, which is a nice thing to be. And then your ulti is really good, and she contributes. Well, she doesn't really care that much about what I talked about earlier about chipping down the Ancient because it doesn't have any HP regen. But it's good to be able to just like take objectives, and you can get tanky really fast if you want to, and then you can just sit in front of the enemy tier 3 with Exorcism on and a sentry tanking the tower for you, and it's like, all right, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? She's same but different. Disruptor, he's not so good. He's not so good. He has the same problems as like any hero with a pretty long cooldown on their ultimate ability. His is really high impact. His shit will win you the game. The problem is like, you need multiple defensive items because again, those mid laners, they're looking at you and it's like, I'm going to kill you, you little boy. And they will. They will put you in the dirt. 6 feet under, young Disruptor. But at the same time, he can contribute to some grinder lanes, and then of course, if you're a Disruptor player, you kill someone in the lane, you're gonna go put a ward down by their tower, and you're just gonna sit there licking your lips like Freaky Sonic, rubbing your hands together with your tongue out. You're like, yeah, buddy, I'm gonna glimpse you. And then they TP in and you glimpse them, and it's like, hooray! We did it! But like that's also true in normal Dota. It's just in Turbo, people have their brains turned off. People are like fucking watching YouTube shorts on their other monitor, so you're a lot more likely to get that shit off. But due to the cooldowns issues, he's gonna go not so good, and he doesn't have the scaling upside that a couple of other supports have, like Crystal Maiden. Woo. Doom, shit, really bad. The problem with Doom is a ridiculously long cooldown, and it only targets one person. And in Turbo, you are playing against 5 cores. So, in a normal game of Dota, they're doing like a 4 protect 1 style thing with the Sven. You Doom the Sven, and then, he can smack you. And if he has his ulti off, he can actually still do a significant amount of damage. But Lord knows he can't lifesteal, and he can't pop his Mask of Madness. Well, actually, no, he can. Maybe Sven was a bad example, but you get the idea. The enemy team has this hyper carry that they're all like planning to deal with. Doom hits the R button on him, and like now that hyper carry is like a weak little baby and has to run away and get force staffed 4 billion times and can't fight. The distribution of power on teams in Turbo is like really bad against Doom, and then also you have that PHAT cooldown in order to play around, which is really annoying. So he's down here. He's go back to ranked with Doom. This hero is dog shit right now, by the way, but that's neither here nor there. Remember, this is sort of patch agnostic. It's just the idea of the hero, until they rework Clinks again and somehow he'll be shit in Turbo. I don't expect that happening, but it could. Dragon Knight. Little buddy, you are in the middle of every goddamn tier list, except for the one about swag, where I think I called you bitchless. Outside of that, this is the 5 out of 10 hero. Where the hell do you think he goes? There's not a whole lot that improves Dragon Knight in the turbo rule set. Being able to take towers is good. The thing is, like, also, I haven't even talked about this. Towers are like made out of paper mache in turbo. You sneeze on them and they go to half HP. So having a hero that's really good at hitting towers is like not actually that beneficial. And then your mid lane matchup spread is like, you don't lose a whole lot of matches, but you don't win a whole lot of them either. You're mostly just trading farm and trying to lock down the enemy mid laner to prevent them from ganking, because if they do gank, you hit 6 and you take their tower, which is cool. That's a cool little play pattern to have. The thing is that just doesn't really translate that well to turbo. Dragon Knight can still smack. He can do you good, really put one on you. But for the most part, one of the core ideas of DK just doesn't really follow through, because being really good at hitting towers in dragon form, every hero can hit towers. Like fucking Witch Doctor can hit towers in turbo. So same but different for DK. Drow Ranger, I think she's pretty good. She is, I guess we haven't talked about this much. One of the concepts that I'm going to be talking about in the Turbo PowerPoint is the concept of a power valley, which is the idea that you have a really strong lane, which Drow Ranger has, but she also needs a moment to get, you have that kind of gap where your lane is good, but now you need Manta Hurricane Pike in order to show up and do things. And so you sort of just have to do nothing for a while. And in normal Dota, that shit really sucks. Because, like, you're afraid as Drow Ranger. You're very frail, and you don't, like, Gust exists, but it's like, eh. And if you die, it's a really big problem, because you're the carry, and you're a Drow, and you don't farm that great. You have multi-shot, which is nice, but until you get a lot of levels and a lot of damage, it sort of works against itself by scaling off of your attack, because your attack is shit in the early game as Drow. You're not that good at farming. Bring back the thing where if you get a marksmanship proc, it instantly kills the creep. Valve, I beg you, my soul is yours. But she sort of gets to skip through that Power Valley segment because it is very fast. Like, the distance between Wind Laning phase and Hurricane Pike Manta is very short in Turbo. So that Power Valley where you don't really get to be a hero yet, you sort of skip over it. And then, Butterfly is one team fight away. That's the other thing, is like when you win a late game team fight in Turbo, you'll have like 5k gold. Drow really likes that. So, I mean, every hero does, but you get the idea. Turbocharge for Drow. I think she gets a lot better in Turbo. Earth Spirit. All of the spirits are going to go in Supersonic Racing. His ability to scale mid Earth Spirit is crazy in Turbo. It's solidly a meme in normal Dota right now. I don't think it's very good. There's been times where it's historically been very strong. You go phase boots. It's a hell of a time. Now is not those times. He's in Supersonic Racing because of how amazing his magic damage is and how good silences are in those team fights. Because Magnetize doesn't have that long of a cooldown. You get to use it every time. Every time there's a team fight, you get to do it. And then also, the Remnants is like, you could make the argument that like the cooldown of Remnants is his actual limiting factor in Turbo because you want to play super fast pace. But in a fast-paced game, the Earth Spirit is like jumping for joy. Like, that's what he's about. He's about those like 2v2 skirmishes. He's about like those really awkward gang timings. His kit and his intended playstyle is very suited to Turbo. And it comes through. And like, look, you may think, oh, he falls off. It's like, yeah, if a Turbo game goes to 30 minutes, the Earth Spirit isn't going to be the strongest hero on the map. Surprise. But like up until around like 20 to 25, yeah, he's going to be running the show. If you're a skilled Earth Spirit player and you haven't played him in Turbo yet, go. Now. Like, queue up now. If the game coordinator isn't down, do it immediately. You'll see what I'm talking about. Pretty much all of the spirits will be in Supersonic Racing, I think. They're all amazing in Turbo, just due to, like, you have tempo characters playing the tempo game mode. No shit, it's good. Earthshaker is an interesting one. One of the big things about him is that he gets access to those big, juicy, fat items so fast. Like, you hit Aghanim's Scepter and like Refresher and Octarine and all the good stuff that you want so much faster that I do think he's better. And Echo Slam scales quite a bit. Like, quite a bit. Like, Echo Slam will team wipe you super late into the game. And he's another hero that benefits from like a metric shitload of team fights. Because if you have Echo Slam off cooldown, a team fight is going to happen soon. Regardless. Like, you don't have to sit around waiting for it. And then you also don't have to do the thing where your position 4 stacks the triangle and then you come take it with Echo Slam. You kind of can't do that in Turbo. You can, but you're sacking a really long cooldown in a very short game. in order to get all of that golden XP. It is usually better for your Pawsmon to just come over and farm it whenever they feel like it. Stacking the triangle is a really good strategy in Turbo. It's very good. A lot of the little optimizations that you can make in Dota matter so much more in Turbo. Like earlier, I talked about a lane pull. Stacks are kind of the same thing. You're getting way more than the usual benefit from those sorts of things. So, turbocharged. Elder Titan. You know, he benefits a little bit from being kind of a meme. You can definitely play like Pause 3. The thing is, all you do is right click for the most, like you have your ulti and you have Astral Stomp. Your Ags is insane because you can be spell immune for like 12 seconds. But if you get into a man fight competition with a Sven with that much more golden XP, you're not gonna win. It doesn't matter if you're able, because then there's also like bonus armor and stuff like that. Wait, does natural order get, no, it gets rid of base armor. So he's on balance like worse because his ulti is like not as good. And then also the thing that you can do as a meme is something that other heroes can do better. Just like people who traditionally do that meme of just sitting there and right-clicking people, they do it better than you. So he's not so good. The goal of this tier list is like not to have everything balanced, by the way. It's pretty close now, which is nice. And it would make sense. But, you know, if there's more heroes that are better in Turbo or more heroes that are worse, that's the way it's going to be. It's funny to have Elder Titan here talking about how important balance is and the natural order of things. If only one of these heroes was shit in Turbo instead. Ember. Supersonic Racing. He gets access to all of those amazing items really fast. The only problem with Ember, and the reason why he's probably the weakest spirit in Turbo, is you have those shit lane matchups that just feel like ass. But like one of the really big issues with him is his mana. And in Turbo, you don't give a shit. Like mana is like nowhere near as big of a problem. He's also a really good hero for demonstrating how different Bottle is in Turbo. I'm a Bottle believer. I know other people who play Turbo and are like pretty high skill whose like Bottle is the dumbest shit ever. They refuse to ever go in Turbo. I think it's good though, and Ember is a good example of someone who I think still goes Bottle. Supersonic Racing. He's going to be up here with his Spirit Brothers, but he is the weakest of the 4 spirits when it comes to Turbo. Ench. Similar problem to Elder Titan. And she's Zoo. You know, you get to the point where you can impetus people and kill them very quickly, which is nice. But you're a right clicker who also can't farm, and all you do is right click. And you have Zoo, which is bad, because if you feed a Hellbear, it's like 200 gold or more. So not so good for Enchantress in this game mode. But Impetus is also really strong. Impetus is the reason she's not in Go Back to Ranked. She would be down here if she couldn't deliver fat chunks of pure damage on the daily. Fucking door dashing a rainbow right in your butthole. Enigma. Go back to Ranked. All of the problems that I have said so far is a lead up to explaining to you how Enigma is like the worst hero in Turbo. He is so bad. He is so bad. The problems with Enigma, it's literally every way you could be bad in Turbo, he is bad. He's not that good at farming. His ulti has a ridiculously high cooldown. And like, yeah, you do get faster access to Octarine and Refresher and stuff, but you're not that good at farming. So you have to farm heroes. But your hero farming item, which is your black hole, is on an insane cooldown. And if you feed Eidolons, you lose the game. Straight up, they give so much gold. So if you're playing against something like a Gyrocopter or like another, I'm struggling to think of other carries who could do it, Drow Multi-Shot, who can just like blast it on your babies and kill them all instantly, it's like you're feeding so much golden XP. I'm pretty sure killing all 3 Eidolons is enough to get you to level 2. Like that's how bad it is with Enigma. In almost every way a hero could be shit in Turbo, Enigma is shit. So he's gonna go back to Ranked. Obviously, you land that fat black hole and you can win the game off a single fight. But like that's also true in Ranked, so you don't actually benefit anything at all from that. And you're a Zoo hero, and you have a fat cooldown ultimate. He's gonna go back to Ranked. Faceless Void can set up a lot of really funny combos. I have a friend who doesn't... this is so weird. I have a friend who doesn't play Dota very often, but we're like very close friends. And so when he does play, he likes to play Invoker. This is his boy. So what we do is I pick Faceless Void in Turbo, and he picks Invoker, and he rushes Axe, and I go Blink Dagger. And I become a chrono bot for him in order to get like ultra kills off of Cataclysm, and it's some of the most fun I have playing Dota. It's a very cheesy thing to do, but it's so much fun, and I love playing it. That makes me want to put him in Supersonic Racing, but it's actually not true. Most of what he does, like he's an incredibly good right clicker. He wins the vast majority of man fights, and you can go a shitload of different items very fast, and you farm fast, and Chrono is still amazing in Turbo. It's just the cooldown issue. And yes, you can go Scotty Refresher on this hero, and you often do, but it's still not enough to make up for the fact that Chronosphere is like such a killer spell. Where if you hit it, that's great, but if you miss, shit, and it kills your confidence. Morale goes down with the empty Chronosphere, dude. You just see like half of a grape appear out of the ground with no enemies inside of it. Who gives a shit? Not so good. But one of my favorites. I love him so much. I wish he was good. Grimstroke. A lot of funny combos. A lot of funny combos and really funny laning presence. I think he's like fine. Soulbind cooldown is like not that bad. It doesn't feel that bad anyway. I don't know it off the top of my head, but I think it's like what, 90 seconds? That's enough. You win a team fight, they all respawn, you have it up again, pretty much. He goes in same but different. But there's some interesting things with Grimstroke. You don't have like an evil baby build for him. You can just go Aghanims really fast and take their evil baby and use it against them. The Shadow Clone Jutsu on their evil baby is something that he could do in Turbo, which is nice, but he doesn't have the upside that a lot of the other supports have. He's in same, but different. Gyrocopter, his issue is like he kind of falls off, you know? It takes a while for a gyro to fall off in a normal game. Like you have to go really, really late for the gyro to fall off, like 50 minutes plus. But with Turbo, it's like the enemy carries get up to you a lot faster. So you fall off a lot quicker as gyro. And you don't really have a whole lot of upsides, and the missile feeds a lot of gold. We're gonna put it in not so good because of the 150 gold bounty on the missile. Like he was already gonna be at the bottom of same but different, but you know, that's 3 whole sentries. You know what you can do with 3 sentries? Oh my god, you can block both of his triangle camps and then also deward. It's disgusting. It's brutal what they're doing. Huskar. You know, he benefits a lot from being able to cheese the fuck out of a lane and making sure that the enemy mid laner, which is a very important position to play in Turbo, again, because of that golden XP advantage that you have relative to playing in normal Dota. His problem is like, it's so much easier to pick up Shivas and Spirit Vessel and Scotty, and then like anti-heal is the thing that every position has access to in some form. You know, carries go Scotty, mids and offlaners can go Shiva's Guard or Scotty. Some mids, a lot of mids go Spirit Vessel these days too, but obviously we're trying not to keep this connected too much to the current meta. He's gonna go in not so good, but there are traits of his that are quite good, and you can get that Aghanim Scepter, and like Roche is. I didn't even talk about Roche this entire time. The Roche respawn timer is like very short. Aegis is shorter to compensate. It's only 4 minutes long, but like proportionally, you get way more Roches, which is good for Huskar. Is he same but different now that I'm really thinking about it? He's same but very different. Like the Huskar's strengths are very amplified, his weaknesses are also very amplified. You know, if you want to be a Huskar player, if you want to learn that shit, this is a good way to do it. Is to play some Turbo Huskar because you will learn real quick. It's also really hard to test your limits in Turbo though because the balance of golden XP makes everything so weird on the enemy team. But you get the idea. Same but very different for him. Invoker, pretty good. He doesn't have to worry too much about cooldowns, which is nice. If you're doing Catachese bullshit, the cooldowns do matter. He's another hero that doesn't win a whole lot of. He's a bit like Dragon Knight in that capacity, which is very funny because they couldn't be less alike. But you go even in a lot of matchups. It just depends on who's the better mid player. If you're a solidly better mid player and you get some funky MMR discrepancies in Turbo, like Lord knows I'm part of the problem. A lot of the guys that I play Turbo with are like pretty low rank. They're like unranked, but I think if they were ranked, they'd be like maybe Crusader. So we get some really funny matches. One of the things you'll experience a lot if you're playing Turbo is if you're like an Immortal ranked player and you're queuing up with your boys who are kind of on the lower end of the spectrum, and you queue up, you will find other stacks that are also like one really high ranked player, and then a bunch of, I don't want to say shitters, but like, you know, you get like Archons and Legends and Guardians, and every now and again you'll find a Herald. If you want to be an Immortal ranked player and play against a Herald, go to Turbo. You'll find them. Might be a long queue, but you'll find them eventually. Those matches always just turn into, I call them kaiju battles, where it's just two guys beating cheeks, and then everyone else is like the backup dancers. It's like, yeah, let's go. And oftentimes it does come down to who has the better backup dancers, but not always. And backup dancers is a bit derogatory for what they really are. They're your teammates and your friends. Smiley face emoji. Invoker's good. I can't remember the point that I left off on talking about him having a stroke. Same but different. IO, pretty shit. He's an example of something that like you kind of can just buy. Like HP and durability and all that are things that you can just buy with gold. And relocate is like okay, but TP scroll cooldowns are very low in Turbo, and so you don't have to worry about that kind of macro mobility nearly as much. Obviously, Nature's Prophet is still amazing. He's going to go in SSR. But IO himself, those two traits is like the global presence and then durability and healing and everything. Those are things that you can just sort of replicate using the mechanics of Turbo itself. So he's going to be not so good. He might actually go back to ranked. Yeah, he doesn't like grief. He doesn't like feed or be so completely diametrically opposed to the mechanics of the game mode. You don't see IO very much in Turbo, though. He's not a very fun hero to play in this capacity. And then you're also sapping more XP proportionally. I'm going to put him in go back to ranked because the classic idea of IO, just like hanging out with your gyrocopter and helping him farm the jungle, is like not conducive towards success. Because now your team also has to like 3v5. And like, sure, you can ulti in, but if your gyro's not ready to do that and he dies, then you lose the game. He's going to be in go back to ranked, but he's like kind of a weird case. He could be higher up when they go back to ranked spectrum. I'm not going to order these, by the way. Not going to order this one either. I think I said like 5 to 10. It might be 5 to 10. We'll see. Oh, Jakiro, baby. Amazing in the lane. Really good farmer as a support, and you can be an evil baby because they added the facet where the amount of damage reduction that you have when you do your double right clicks is reduced. And there's a lot of silly billy items that you can go as Jakiro, so you can have your Maelstrom in order to farm because you're getting 2 bites at the apple every time you right click. Your damage that you get from a Daedalus is going to be a bit normalized, and you benefit quite a bit more from the bonus damage and everything else that happens as well. So there's like, you're benefiting from a lot of those items, those really dumb items, in 2 different ways as Jakiro. I talked about the concept of core Jakiro in the Jakiro guide, where I told everyone to jack off, which is probably, it's worth noting that jack there is not spelled with the C. It's J-A-K because it's Jakiro, and then off because it's off lane. But in Turbo, you can play it as an off laner, or you can play it as a mid, and it's very good in both of those roles. So he benefits a lot in the same way that Bane does, but not to the same degree as Ancient Apparition, who will just straight up win a game for you, and Dark Willow as well. Turbocharged. Juggernaut is a weird one. Can't really go refresher on this hero, now can you? And your ultimate is like a pretty long cooldown. But spin is incredibly good, and the lane is a very important thing to win. So I think... gotta charge it up. He's not so good. It's not that he's bad, it's just that like a lot of the elements of Juggernaut are things that you can literally buy. Like, think of Healing Ward as just like a Heart of Tarask that you get for a little while. And then Blade Dance is just like a bit better Daedalus, like you crit more often, but you don't do quite as much damage because I think it caps at 190 as opposed to 225 for Daedalus. Or maybe it's the other way around. Whatever. A lot of your shit can just be purchased. Even your spin is like a bad BKB in the context of Turbo. Like, yeah, it's good in the lane, but like later on, you're not going to be dealing any damage with it. You're just using it for the spell immunity and like being able to run away for the most part. You're not using it offensively. The like alt build that Valve has tried to push for a while for Juggernaut, like building around the spin and being a magic damage jug, that shit does not work. It falls off way too fast because your Q just doesn't do enough damage. So he's not so good. His turbo silly build ideas don't work, and then also you can just buy half of his kit. You know, you can't buy Omni Slash, but you also can't buy a Refresher on Jug. So he's gonna go in not so good. But he's, you know, playable. He's good. He's fine. He's just not so good. Coddle of the Light is like, you get the silly items. I'm trying to think about Coddle mid. Coddle mid, by the way, is a fucking menace right now. I don't know what they did in the changelog, but he's a freaking problem here in this world that we live in 7.40b. But turbo mode, I feel like he doesn't benefit a whole lot, and like his lane is like shit. He doesn't have a great lane. I think he's like not so good, I guess, but like I'm not 100% sure. And then mid could completely skew this. I do think in mid, like the fall off happens way sooner because it's way easier to pick up BKBs and pipes and eternal shrouds in response to a Caudle being really good. Like when you're doing great as a Caudle, all you're really doing is a fuckload of magic damage, which is great. So it's a good thing to have in Dota. But also, that's a thing that is very directly countered by a good chunk of items that you can buy. So he's going to go here. And then, non-interactive lanes are great for mid, but also it means that the enemy mid is also getting a good chunk of farm as well. So, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Kunkka, if the whole like Daedalus and Silver Edge and all that bullshit was still good on him with Tidebringer, he'd probably be in turbocharge. But he falls off, and his tankiness is something that can be fairly reasonably surmounted just by the exit of all the Daedalus and Mjolnirs running around everywhere. I guess not Mjolnirs, but you get the idea. Like, people buy damage items in this game mode. I think he's same but different. X is just a broken ability. Kunkka is also a very strong, well, not a very strong, but I think he's a pretty solid pick this lane, or this meta, as well as an offlaner. But that's neither here nor there, because it's a turbo tier list. Smiley face, emoji. Legion. Legion's pretty good. You would think that, like, okay, shorter game, so the dual damage isn't as big of a deal because you're not going to get more of it, but, like, that's not really true, because it's all proportional, And then, well, no, that is true, hold up. NA, NA imagination skills. Give me a sec here. NA theory crafting. I do still think she's good. I think she's good almost entirely off of the basis of duel itself. Like, not so much from the dual damage, which is still a great thing to have because you can just buy utility, and obviously you have a shitload of gold, you can buy a shitload of utility. But also just being able to, like, blink in on someone, pop a Lincoln's, and then just guarantee the fact that they are going to be locked down. Like, if you look up in Supersonic Racing, Legion jumps on any of these heroes. Well, Earth Spirit's kind of sus because he's a tanky mother hubber. But like these three heroes, and then a lot of the other two spirits that are going to be up here, you duel them, they die. So she acts as a bit of a safety valve for a lot of the like mobility focused magic spellcaster bullshit heroes that like try to fight Tricky. She's like, no, we're not going to fight Tricky. We're just going to fight. and that's a powerful thing to have. Just a ridiculously long lockdown ability that also has the upside in the form of dual damage. And TPs are low, so you can just like follow people around in really obnoxious ways and like buy smokes for yourself. And there's a lot of good combos, and your lane spread is like fine. Lesh is pretty good. He takes really good advantage of the concept of mid laners having more gold and XP, like hard. Because with Leshrac, it's like you convert durability into damage through the process of Pulse Nova and your W. And it's very easy for you to get access to a large amount of durability. You get that Shiva's Guard really fast on this hero. You can pick up a Yules after farming for like 3 minutes. It may be even less. If you get a kill or two, and Lord knows if you go Chronoptic Nourishment instead of Misanthropy, I think is what it's called, you can take buildings incredibly quickly because it's not just that their armor is lower, it's that their total max HP is lower. So anything that can deal magic damage to buildings is also really buff. And Lesh is maybe tied with Pugna at hitting buildings with magic, like on balance. Pugna's better in some scenarios, Leshrac is better in some. I think they're tied. Pugna he has a bit more of the Caudle problem, but like Leshrac is also, you have a stun. You have Lightning Strike as a slow. You have access to pure damage. You can hit buildings. You're a lot more varied than Caudle is. Caudle is just me hit magic damage until you die, which, that's a game plan. But Lesh is a little bit more spread out in ways that aren't as easily countered. And then Nihilism is a son of a bitch. The mid laner's Winter's Curse. Lich. Lich is kind of fun. Lich is pretty fun. I think he's the same. I think just being able to like pop your ulti. I swear to God, I'm not doing this to try to balance everything out because Supersonic Racing is 4 and this one's at 5. Lich just gets access to, if you want to do the Blink Shard combo, you get it super fast. And then Frost Shield is a broken ability, and you're going to be constantly fighting, so there's going to be plenty of good opportunities to use it. And because there's constant fighting, your ulti does have a bit of a cooldown, but it's not near where like Black Hole and Chronosphere and all of those spells are. You know, you can still use it fairly frequently. So yeah, same but different. Same but different for Lich. Life Stealer. Hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the things about Life Stealer is like your lane is like kind of shitty, but you have access to Gore Storm, which is good. So you kind of get that level 6, insane level 6 power spike. And then you counter a lot of tank. That's kind of the thing that I think makes him turbocharged. Is like, unfortunately, you are born with a BKB, and your E is like literally a non-unique thing. It's just movement speed and attack speed. Like you could buy, you could buy power treads and phase boots, and you could basically have his ability. But Feast is such a crazy thing to have, and then a lot of heroes, like I talked about Centaur War Runner, how he wants to get to that like 8,000 HP threshold. You're one of only a handful of heroes who can reliably kill that. Like Axe blinks on you, and he's got 8,000 HP. You don't care. He has Blade Mail active. You don't care. You hit him. You heal. You eat him. Nom, 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 yummy. I think he's in turbocharged for that reason, and then also because you're a carry who can kind of just show up with one item. Like you can have Radiance and a Yasha, and you can show up and like do things as Lifestealer. You don't necessarily want to, but you can, and that's cool. And you get that super late game Arteezy Rampage bullshit way faster as a result. Lina. She's got a bit of that Power Valley too. She benefits a lot from being able to access her talents, I'll say that. That matters a lot for her. But also, she does magic damage, and her combo has a hard ceiling. I did the math in my head. It's a lot, but it's not enough to kill an 8,000 HP Centaur. It's a weird little it's a weird little litmus test for seeing how good a carry can scale. Or I guess a mid laner too can scale in turbo mode. Is how much do they need to be able to kill an 8k HP Centaur? You know, Lina as like a pause one right click carry is like probably just as good as Magic Lina is in the mid lane. Yeah, she's same but different. She has problems, but she also, you know, you get Aghanims and Yules so fast that you can just do whatever you want. And you have a really good game on Lina. You can just walk around like you're in creative mode. So same but different. Lion, you know, his cooldown on fingers starts absurd, but it gets real low real fast. You get access to Octarine and that 30-degree cone split, and you ruin everyone's day. Hex is so good. Finger is such a good fighting ability. Mana Drain is whatever. It's got some funny combos. It's not as big of a deal as it is in ranked Dota. I wouldn't say it's as good. You know, you trip on the ground and you get back up with a penny and you can use it by a clarity. So it's like not a huge deal to just like casually drain people's mana. It doesn't matter. But having access to Finger as a farming item and then just that much CC on a hero, you're kind of built for those skirmishes as long as you can have a teammate to stand behind. So I do think he's turbocharged. Lone Druid. Another hero kind of similar to Broodmother in the sense that like you aren't really countered by items, you're countered more by playstyle or like heroes. I think he's good just because of what he does to the mid lane. Well, new Lone Druid, I don't have enough experience with new Lone Druid to know if he still dumpsters the mid lane that he used to before. If you're up against like a melee mid laner or just someone with a very low damage output, or I guess burst damage output as opposed to consistent from like right clicks and such. Like old Lone Druid would be in turbocharged. I will admit that I'm not 100% sure where the current new Lone Druid is. I know the bear, like you hit level 7 and you don't have that insane bear power spike where he's the strongest hero in the game and he's not even a hero. Now he is a hero and he's not the strongest hero in the game. We take what we can get as Dota players. Turbocharged, I think. But like you could shoot me with a gun and I would apologize. I don't know what I meant by that. Luna, pretty shitty. Another carry that like falls off way too fast. She's just not tanky enough. Like you go BKB and you can go Moonshield as like the facet and you'll still die to a lot of the bullshit just because the numbers are cranked so high and like your strength gain is not that great. And you can go Satanic, which is cool. But like if the other carry has Satanic, he's stronger than you anyway. So you still lose that man fight. You know, you'll be sitting there pooping back and forth with each other forever with both your Satanics activated, but like once that's over, you're gonna lose. I think she's not so good. She does benefit a little bit from, and this is kind of her saving grace, because she also has a really long cooldown ultimate. Her saving grace is the fact that she hits buildings so good. Like, one of the things I talked about is like, when you're playing against Luna in normal ranked, I think this was in the like ability tier list, the 10-hour long one months ago. With Luna, a lot of times there are situations where you would lose tier 3 and it's like, okay, the game is tough but it's winnable. But if the enemy team has a Luna, your tier 3 drops, your barracks are gone too. And there's nothing, like there's very little counterplay because you're dead. So it takes a situation where it's like, okay, this game is really tough, and turns it into, no, this game is over. You don't get to play anymore. Luna makes it so that if you would take one lane of barracks in Turbo, you get megas and tier 4s. And the Ancient not healing doesn't really matter to her because she can't split push the way that a lot of other heroes can, like Kling's or Nature's Prophet. But she still very much so benefits from having shitty buildings that you can just wail on. Lycan. Lycan's pretty funny. You always have the backup plan of getting an Aghanim Scepter and throwing it on someone who had a good lane. And that's usually enough to win a game. But the Wolf Bounty. The Wolf Bounty. Feed wolves on this hero, they're going to get a real fast Battle Fury, or a Radiance, or a Maelstrom, or whatever it is they're going. And that's tough, because there's a lot of things in the game that can just outright kill wolves. Crystal Maiden Frostbite, Mirana Arrow, Punch Hook, etc. All of those make using them on the wolves worth it. And that's a very bad thing. So not so good. Alpha wolves are still broken though. Make no mistake. Magnus, a lot of cooldowns, but he's built for them skirmishes. You know, he likes those 3v3s where he's snatching you up. The body snatcher himself. I think he's in the same but different. It's just that his strengths are quite split. RP isn't as good, but the rest of his kit is better in Turbo, especially if fights are fragmented and you're able to get off like the full range skewers without getting stunned in the middle of it. I think he's same but different. And I mean it this time because he actually is different. Mars. Mars is good. Like Mars is weird because his kit is so good. He has a lot of stuff that you cannot replicate with an item or with any other hero, really. And then on top of that, he also wants like 40k net worth. Like, you know, you can't just have one or the other with Mars. And then you have access to stuff like Refresher, and you can put motherfuckers in the Venn diagram. That's very painful. It sucks to get put in the cock crusher by this hero once he gets Refresher and he sings while he does it. Yeah. Mars benefits a lot. And then, you know, you always have the late game option of Mickey's Dick Smasher. So Medusa's a funky one. When Turbo got first announced, my first thought was like, oh, I'll just spam Medusa in Turbo. That probably sounds fun. And I was right. It actually is really fun to play Medusa in Turbo. Until you go to the draft screen, and then it turns out they picked Slark Nyx Assassin, and it's like, well, there goes my night. I'm not going to have fun. She's so weird to rate. I'm gonna say off the nature of the blind draft, because it also benefits you a little bit, because they can't like pick an answer to Medusa in response. I'm gonna say that she's like turbocharged, but like it's in a very different way, because if they do have any counter to you, you are fucked. Like there's nothing you can do. But if they don't have a counter, you just sort of win the game. It's funny. I complain about Monkey King turning the game into a binary state all the time, but when Medusa does it, I'm cool with it. When Medusa turns the game into a binary state, aw, how sweet. Aw, how sweet. When Monkey King turns the game into a binary state, hello? Human resources? Meepo. Pretty shitty. he's a very shit hero. He might actually go back to ranked. You know, you can't take advantage of the farm disparity nearly as much with Meepo, but you kind of can in that post-laning stage phase, and you can sort of deathball a little bit. But again, if they have any answers to you at all, and you're Meepo, so they do, that hero is just going to make you an absolute waste. Like, they have an Elder Titan, or a Winter Wyvern, or like a... there's a billion heroes that counter Meepo. Like, you get the idea. He's not so good. He's not so good. Lich. Mirana. My beautiful baby girl, Mirana. I think she is... You can do carry Mirana in Turbo, and it's lit. It's actually so lit. Because you don't have to hit arrows. And that's awesome. You can also get a Rod of Atos at like 7 minutes as a pause 4, and then put your training wheels on and play Tricycle Mirana, and that's pretty good. I'm gonna say same but different. It's just the fact that you can... Well, no. Because she has access to a new build. She goes in turbocharge because you can play her as a carry, and it's lit. It really is. I can't think of another word, but Carry Murata, which I have opinions about. I'm not going to describe those opinions. I don't have opinions about my opinions. They exist on their own. Praxis. Carry Murata in Turbo is very funny. Has a lot of swag. Has a lot of aura. Turbocharged. Monkey King is... I feel like he's good, because Monkey King is like a secret hyper carry. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but once a Monkey King gets to like 50k net worth, he actually kind of outcarries everyone. It's kind of weird. Jingu is such a fucked up ability. I think he goes in turbocharged. I'm not 100% sure on him though. He's a weird one as well. Hello, human resources. So I ever think about how weird human resources is as a phrase? It always struck me as strange. When I was a little kid, I heard about human resources and I thought that meant the United States military. I thought that's what human resources were. It was like the special ops of your company. It would come kill you, I guess, if you fucked up an Excel spreadsheet, added an extra zero, and sent the company into bankruptcy because you bought 1 million cigarettes. Morphling. He's pretty good. You reach that. He's another hero whose like scaling is kind of unlimited. You know, you can always just sack Scotties once they buy MKB. You can sell Butterfly and buy more Scotties. Waiter. I think he's pretty good just because like your lane is generally pretty good. You have like a good matchup spread, and then you know you don't have to rely so much on your ultimate in order to morph and do flashy things. That you absolutely can if that's something you want to do. But being able to just like scale and reach that peak of where you are is like a very good thing to be able to do. So I think he's in turbocharge. Just be like he benefits so much from the extra golden XP. Naga Siren as a carry? I'm gonna rate her as a carry here. Because support Naga is like kind of dead. Sorry to the support Naga fans, of which there are at least a few that I know of. I think being able to make those really cool macro moves is like not that beneficial. And then the illusions give extra gold. And that kind of makes her not so good, I think. Like a lot of hyper carries do really well in Turbo, but like Naga is not as big of a beneficiary because of her weird macro game. And then like position 5s are able to clear your illusions. So, well, it depends a lot on what position 5 it is, but you get the idea. Is like your illusions make you a lot more vulnerable in Turbo because of the extra gold that they feed, and then the macro game she wants to play is just not conducive towards the idea of Turbo. Nature's Prophet. Supersonic racing. This hero is broken. And the reason why is not only because of so there's two things. The first is teleport, which is the second biggest reason that he's so broken. Teleport, being able to show up to any lane and deal a shitload of damage, and I'm assuming you're playing him mid, which is where he's best in Turbo, you have the golden XP gap. And it's a gold gap here too, because you're going to be getting a lot more gold than a lot of other heroes because your right click is so good, and you're so good at trading in the mid lane. But being able to just show up anywhere and secure their lane, and winning lanes in Turbo is a huge deal. So it matters quite a lot. You know, it's not the end of a game if you lose all 3 lanes, but your chances of winning drastic go down. Then you add NP to the mix. Whew. But the other thing, and this is the real juice of Nature's Prophet in Turbo, is his stat gain. Because his stat gain is insane. So you benefit a shitload from gold, and you benefit a shitload from XP. Nature's Prophet's sort of safety valve is the fact that he doesn't have a built-in way to farm, right? Like, you don't have anything in your kit that buffs your right click. But being able to farm heroes using your golden XP advantage is conducive towards establishing an even larger golden XP advantage, and you benefit from both of those more than most other heroes at the same time. So supersonic racing for him, you know? Plus, Sprout is annoying. Sprout is a very annoying ability to deal with in Turbo because you run out of item slots so fast. So you need to have an answer for it as well, which is annoying. Supersonic racing. Nature's Prophet in Turbo is broken. You know, he's not the best man fighter in the game, but if he gets any sort of advantage, he can snowball it like crazy. He's very good. This is the ideal Turbo team right here. I guess like, well, no. Well, mid AA, carry Ember, I guess. Nature's Prophet offlane. Earth Spirit, Nature's Prophet. You sprout them, you Rolling Boulder in. That's pretty good. And then Dark Willow 5, I guess. Don't pick that. But if you did, I bet this team has a massive win rate in Turbo. I don't know how to find those stats, but if you do, please leave a comment. Let me know. There's going to be more heroes in this tier too, don't worry. Necrophos, countered by Nullifier, and it's a hell of a lot easier to buy a Nullifier, but you usually stomp your mid lane. He benefits a lot from blind picks as well, because if your team doesn't have a natural answer to Necrophos, or someone who can lane against him really well in the mid lane, he kind of owns. He gets a really fast, you can get like an 8-minute radiance with like brown boots and like an ult alley, and then you just sort of walk around killing people until they eventually get a Nullifier. Your infinite scaling is tied to your ultimate, which has a long cooldown, but you don't really care. Like the infinite scaling on Necrophos doesn't really do much in normal Dota, and then in ranked or in turbo, it matters even less. So I do think he is turbocharged. He's just slightly held back by his ulti cooldown and the fact that he's countered by Nullifier, which is an item that people can get. But you can also build items to make you tanky, so even if you don't have access to Ghost Shroud, you're still a problem. Night Stalker, pretty bad. Being gated so much. Like in a normal Dota game, you have, we're not going to count the night at the beginning. I guess if we're going night rain, it's before the horn, it's daytime. So we'll count it like that. So if a game lasts 35 minutes, you get access to 1, 2, 3, 4 nights. But this game is only 20 minutes long, or 25. So you get access to 1, 2, 3 nights in a 25-minute long game. And you do have your ultimates, which matters, but like it's also a long cooldown, and without it, you're kind of a pooper. And it's fairly easy to get items that deal with you, like Force Staff and whatnot, and Ghost Scepter. And even in Turbo, buying a Nullifier on Night Stalker sucks. So I think he's like, he might be go back to ranked, honestly. The only thing that kind of helps is like his lane is solid. And the night thing isn't as bad because of his ultimate, but like you're never gonna buy Refresher or Octarine or anything like that. You can't buy CDR in this hero. You just can't do it. I think he is so fucked by the system mechanics that we are gonna put him in go back to ranked. Yeah. Yeah. He's gonna go here. Nyx Assassin, monster in Turbo. I kind of want to put him up here. We're gonna put him up here. The thing about Nyx is like both of those ideas with Nyx Assassin, like being the boogeyman and running around with a Dagon and like a Kaya and just one-shotting people, once you get that snowball rolling as Nyx, it's hard to stop. People don't buy sentries in Turbo because they're here to smoke weed. They're not here to win, bro. They're here to crack racist jokes in the Discord call with their boys and mash buttons. And they will die to Nyx. And then also the other idea is like Aghanim Scepter and just like doing all the bullshit that involves, and Nyx can't farm. That's the problem. This hero can't hit creeps. Ever since they got rid of Mind Flayer instantly killing creeps, you can't really get gold on this hero. So being in an environment where you kill one hero and that's an Ags piece entirely, you get 3 kills as this hero, there's your Ags. Because you also have passive gold and bounties and whatnot. And maybe you hit a range creep or something, I don't know. You benefit quite a bit from having increased access to all of that golden XP, even if you're not really that great at farming it. Supersonic racing for him. If only he could hit buildings. Oh wait, Meteor Hammer cast range increased when in Burrow. There you go. He can hit buildings. Ogre Magi. Core Ogre is like kind of monstrous, actually. I think he's in turbocharge. Support Ogre is not that great, but Core Ogre, when you go like offlane, or even mid, depending on the matchup. The thing is, you can go the facet that instead of Learning Curve, where you get 3 skill points at level 2, and you basically get an empty level where you're able to get your ult at 5 and stuff like that. Once you're like, you go the facet where the more strength you have increases the odds of you getting multicast triggers, and you buy like a heart or 2, and it's hard because the math is like really funky, but you feel it. It's enough that you really do genuinely feel the increased luck. And then you get the talent that's broken where you can basically bash Fire Blast people, and that can multicast itself. So you can wind up dealing like 12 Fire Blasts in a row if you go in Aghanim Scepter, or you just get lucky and you bash them twice in a row with Fire Blast and the right clicks, and you're stupidly tanky, and your lane is pretty good, and you cheese the shit out of people in the mid lane. It's just that like support is like kind of dumpy as Ogre. Like if you're going the learning curve facet, you're kind of doing it wrong, even if you're playing as support. So his good facet is shit in Turbo, but his other facet becomes like solid, and you get access to playing him as a core much more confidently. You can play Pause 3 Ogre right now in Dota if you want, in the same way that I could like fall over and punch myself in the kneecaps until I started bleeding out on my office floor. I don't know why I made that so graphic. Sheesh. Omni Knight. Let's go carry Omni. It's not there yet. We need a little more time. We've got our top scientists on the case trying to figure out how to make Omni a competent position 1. We haven't figured it out yet. He has a bit of the Elder Titan syndrome, where like his spells are good, but a lot of the appeal of playing Omni in a turbo environment is you want to go all in on Hammer of Purity and deal a shitload of pure damage, which is a great thing to do. And you're gonna have a very strong early and mid game, but once the real man fighters in, they're gonna make you look like a boy fighter. That's also a weird thing to say. I think he's same but different. It's just that he falls off way faster relative to like heroes that kind of do the same thing that he does. But Omni Knight is a hero where even if he doesn't deal damage, he is still an Omni Knight. You still have GA, but they combine his spells a lot easier too. He might be not so good now that I'm really thinking about it. I think he's not so good. The cooldown on GA is what makes the difference for me. He's gonna be down here. Oracle. You're a support who has like no scaling potential. That's kind of your problem. And then your ulti has a long cooldown. He might be go back to ranked. Yeah, he doesn't fit the vibe of Turbo. That's the other part of it. Is like you're not here to save your friends. You're here to deny them when they get hit by Quap's Q and they're obviously going to live, or like Venomous Gale. You're here to kill them. You're here to kill your boys. Was it that photo of Bill Clinton holding up the Guilty Gear advertisement, and it's like, kill your friends, guilt-free. This is what our children are playing. It's top 10 images in United States history. OD is a bastard in this game mode. You get access to all of your bullshit so easily, and then you are gonna kneecap the enemy team's mid laner because you have Gay Baby Joe, and you put him in there, and you deny range creeps right in front of him, and there's nothing they can do. And then you get your Witchblade, if you want to go that. You can't really go Meteor Hammer OD in Turbo. You really shouldn't be doing it in normal Dota either, but like if you're based, you can do it. But you gain access to like Aghanim Scepter super fast. Your damage is amazing because it's pure, and that makes you an amazing man fighter no matter what. You can go Parasma really fast, and then you deal a shitload of damage. You have access, and you go Scythe of Ice. Scythe of Ice is an insane item in Turbo because it's so easy to buy BKBs and Dispels, but Scythe of Ice doesn't give a shit about that. So you go that, and it's a very good item to go. And so he's going to go in turbocharged. He's not quite Supersonic Racing, I don't think, but he is a very strong hero. He's one of the stronger ones in turbocharged for sure. If you want to be a dick to strangers, go ahead and queue up for Turbo and pick OD. Pango. The fact that he has so many things that scale off of the items that he can get because of Swashbuckle really helps him a lot. And then his mid matchup spread is like good enough. You have to be a good Pango, but like I'm assuming you can play all these heroes relatively competently. I'd say Pango's floor is maybe a little bit higher than some of the other easy mid laners, but and then your matchup spread is funky. I don't know why I'm talking. Like in the context of Turbo, Pangolier is very good because he is an amazing team fighter. That's what it comes down to. Rolling Thunder is disgusting. You get Aghanim Scepter. Your Swashbuckle scales like crazy depending on what items you get. You don't need to go a farming item. You just go Diffusal Blade, and then you walk around the map, and you can kind of play really good. And then, God forbid, you win your lane. Like if you're playing against a Pangolier and you lose your lane in Turbo, you're gonna lose the game. Good luck. I hope you have a Bloodseeker or something. Until then, hasta la vista, baby. Phantom Assassin, also pretty good. The cool thing about her is that she's able to farm so ridiculously fast with the Battle Fury that you still go it with absolutely zero shame. And then by the time they get MKB, you have her Satanic. So, like, you're still tanky, actually. And then they also have to go be MKBs, which sucks. Like, even in Turbo, they get it really fast, but you farm faster than them, which means that you will always be one step ahead when it comes to the item race. There's only a couple of heroes that can kind of contest you on that front. Medusa is actually one of them. She is very good. Just having access to all of that gold is so monstrous for her. She doesn't care that much about the XP. Her level 25 talents are like okay. Actually, if I remember correctly, they're actually kind of dumpy, but it's okay. PA is very good in turbocharged. You skip over that power valley, similar to the way the Drow does, where you go from Battle Fury, then you need your Desolator BKB, or maybe Senjin Yasha. You just get those and you show up, because you farm so fast, you farm all of that in like 7 minutes, which is like not long at all, because you get your Battle Fury at like 8 minutes in an okay game. So at 15 minutes, you're ready to rock and roll. You go Bashford into Satanic, and then you can end the game. And just having access, I talked about like, if you can buy a hero's abilities, like a Daedalus in the place of the crit, but her crit is so much better than a Daedalus that I think it's okay. Phantom Lancer. He's a weird one. Another hero that isn't so much countered by items. Mjolnir is not the item it used to be. I don't know if you would still go the Phylactery build, Phylactum Lancer, which is, I'm totally making it, guys, for sure. Trust me, it'll come out maybe next week. I don't know. I think he's like fine. I don't think that there's a whole lot that changes. It's just a matter of the draft, and you can like surprise pick Phantom Lancer, which is a good thing to do. It's a lot easier to win a game when you pick PL and they have no clear answer. But also you can pick into a Leshrac or an X or something like that, and then it's like, well, I lose. He has those problems, but those are the only issues he has. But you also benefit quite a bit from that. And I would say that there's a lot of like the average team can't deal with a PL. So I think you benefit a little bit from the draft, but also you get outscaled. So he's going to go in same, but different. He's got kind of the same advantages that he's kind of literally the same situation as it is in normal Dota for PL. You don't have to go a farming item. That's cool. Phoenix, another hero that's kind of capped out by their scaling. You know, Phoenix cannot right click. You cannot make right click Phoenix a thing. It's never going to be a thing. And it's a lot easier to buy the items that you use to counter Phoenix. It's just his lane is fucked up, dude. Phoenix is such a broken laner. He's going to go in not so good, just because the egg isn't that big of a deal, but a lot of his other abilities get stronger in the context of Turbo. So he's a hero that benefits almost entirely from XP because you can't use items while you're in the egg. Puck, very good. Very good in Turbo. He might be, well, the only thing preventing him from going in Supersonic Racing is the cooldown on Dragon Coil. And it's not as bad as some of the other really big teamfight ultimates, but I still think he's not quite up there yet. The thing that makes Puck so good in Turbo is that you can go the right-click Puck build with zero shame. You go Witchblade, which are eventually going to turn into a Parasma. I honestly skip Blink when I play this hero in Turbo. I just go Witchblade like right into like Shard, Aghanim Scepter, and then you drop your ultimate and people start dying because there's not a whole lot that you could do. If you break coil, it still right clicks you, which is such a weird balance decision by Valve, but it makes sense. I mean, the damage you do from right clicks outstrips the Dream Coil break damage, so like why wouldn't you if it stopped the right clicks? But now the ability sort of keeps its identity, and you can also just deal a ridiculous amount of damage. And then if you ever go Refresher on this hero, because you usually have an extra slot to get away with it, you can now drop down 2, and no one survives. You get the level 25 talent where it pierces debuff immunity, and it's really difficult. And I'm pretty sure that even if you don't have that, I think it still right clicks them. So like you can't win against Puck. It's just that like there's some certain elements of that idea that don't mesh with the idea of Puck as a character. Like you're not as good at ganking. You need Dream Coil to gank if you're going to go this. You can't just go off on your own. If you compared to if you had like a Yules or a Blink Dagger or something like that. I mean, Witchblade alone is like pretty strong, but if you don't have a Blink Dagger, it's kind of hard to like pop up out of nowhere the way you want to do as a Puck. So there's an opportunity cost here, but Puck is very, very good and scales like an MFer. No more swearing on this channel. Pudge, kind of, I mean, if you're going to play Turbo and you want to play Pudge, you better be mashing that button. You better have like, what's that G502, the Logitech mouse wheel that you can like unlock and just like spin that shit like a ball bearing. You need to somehow bind pick hero to that and immediately begin spinning as soon as you load into the match to pick Pudge. People really like him. People really like this hero. And he gets picked in like probably over half of all Turbo games. With that in mind, I don't think he's that good. Well, a single good hook wins you the game in a normal Dota match. That remains true in Turbo. And if you're doing the like tank core build, if you're playing him as a core, he's probably better. If you're playing him as a support, I'd say he's maybe a little bit worse because you just become food. He's same, but different. The core Pudge is better because you can get to the Shiva's Guard so much faster, and the Aghanims, you get Ags at like fucking like 8 minutes or something with this hero, and you just kill everyone. And that's a really powerful thing to do, is to kill the entire enemy team. So I'm gonna put him in same, but different. But like support Pudge is nowhere near as good, I think. But core Pudge is significantly good. I don't know if it's as much better as Sup Pudge is bad. Worse. Yeah. Same, but different. Pugna. I think Pugna is like a little bit juiced because you benefit a lot. I'm assuming this is mid Pugna. You benefit a lot from having the golden XP advantage over other heroes because it's you see a Pugna with like who's level 9 and you're level 6 walk up to you, you kind of just have to run away. And even if you do, there's a good chance you die depending on what items the Pugna has. Blink Dagger Pugna is a hilarious thing to do in Turbo. I've talked about the tech before, but if you're sucking someone, you can actually just blink at them as they attempt to run away, and you'll continue to suck. The suck resumes unabated, regardless of their situation. And a lot of the same benefits as Leshrac, because you're able to deal very safe magical damage to towers. Leshrac deals pure and unsafe. You deal magical and safe because you're in fucking Timbuktu when you're casting your ability, because you go Aether Lens on this hero, even as a core. And so you're able to like grind down buildings stupidly fast. Really fast. Nether Ward, when you max it out, does like a fifth of a tier 1's HP pool. Like, it does a ridiculous amount of damage because their HP values are lower in addition to their armor. Pugna is probably, I don't know if they benefit more from Leshrac, but sometimes they do. So turbocharged, and then also funny lane matchups. You get 6 so fast that you can just begin the Sook train as soon as you hit it, and it's good. Conducive towards success. Auspicious, the Chinese would say. Queen of Pain. I don't know about her. She's a bit of a strange case. Because you get access to the big, juicy items, but your scaling is still a little bit capped, and so you have to go into becoming a tank a little faster. Which you can do. Your mid matchup spread is like not as good. I think you're not so good. Having access to pure damage is like cool, but the HP totals get so high that like it's just not enough. Like even with a significant chunk of spell amp, your ulti just doesn't do enough damage to justify it. And you don't want to go Refresher because you're leaving a lot on the table if you do. So you can go like well, you don't even want to go Octarine on this hero. Like you have to put everything you have into like damage and durability and mobility, and you need a BKB. Because the shit that they bring to the table is really going to counter the hell out of you. You do keep your really good lane matchup spread though, and that's a nice thing to have. So not so good for Queen of Pain. But she's one of the better heroes here. She's better than Meepo in terms of translating into Turbo. Razor is pretty good. Razor is a very good character. I almost want to put him in Supersonic Racing, but he needs a really good lane. Not even a really good lane. You just need, yeah, you kind of do need a really good lane. The snowball with Razor is insane because you can go for the Aghanim Scepter and the Refresher Shard or Refresher Orb, and now you're able to basically just do everything. You can hit buildings, you can kill entire enemy teams, you can suck from Static Link, you can do all sorts of cool things as Razor if you have a golden XP advantage. And Razor tends to win lane, and therefore he tends to get a significant golden XP advantage. The mechanics of Turbo play well into the game state that Razor wants to create, and he himself is good at creating that game state. Ergo, turbocharged. Problem is if you get behind, because this hero can't really farm, and he also can't really buy a farming item. So you're going to be hitting Q on creep waves as they approach, getting it nailed perfectly on the range creep, and it still has 2 HP. So you have to go up and you right-click it, and it feels like shit. Turbocharged, though. It's funny, because do you get it? Charged? Electric? He and Visage, gay boys. Ricky is like pretty good. You could, well, I don't know, because they've reworked him. This is another one similar to Lone Druid, where like before he was really good, because the amount of damage that you could do off of Tricks of the Trade was insane, because you had the facet that made you like, what, 4 times Agi bonus or some shit? How was that ever allowed in the game? Like, you just get to 400x or 400% crit on your base damage all the time when you're in Tricks of the Trade? Like, what? Old, he was in Turbocharge, probably. He benefits a lot from people not buying sentries because they're here to smoke weed and hang out. He's turbocharged, I think. It's just that like with the rework, I couldn't say for sure. How's the balance looking? We're putting a lot more heroes in turbocharge than we are in not so good, but such is the nature of things. It's foolish to pretend otherwise. Rubik. The quality of Rubik's gameplay experience is highly dependent on things that Rubik cannot control, and therefore I sort of want to put him in same but different. He does benefit a lot from being able to get an Aghanim Scepter a lot faster. He's probably more fun in Turbo because you can like not eat your yucky veggies even more than Rubik's already do in normal Dota. But you're also like very squishy and susceptible. I don't know, man. He's a weird case. I'm gonna put him in same but different, but like you could argue not so good or turbocharged, and I would just nod my head and be like, so true, bestie. Sand King benefited a lot from the addition of Stinger because it gives him a way to scale that isn't entirely dedicated to magical damage. And I think that makes him turbocharged. His lane is very stable. It's like a very predictable experience in Turbo because not a lot, like a lot of the heroes that sort of counter invis are usually offlaners or play in the offlane like Bounty Hunter, and you don't really have to deal with them. And even if even if you were laning against them, it doesn't really matter until they're level 6, which they do hit early on. The laning stage is sort of like artificially extended and shortened in Turbo. Like in normal Dota, carries are around level 7 or maybe even a little longer if it's a good lane before they decide to like go into the jungle and not stick entirely to the lane. Like they'll come back to farm creep waves. But in Turbo, and that usually happens around 10 minutes. But in Turbo, because like XP is so much higher and people are used to staying in the lane for 10 minutes anyway, it's very common to be like 8 minutes in, which is proportionally like 16 minutes, and people are still in the laning phase, which is an interesting thing. Kind of a result of the power runes actually starting to encourage ganking a little bit later. Interesting ideas. I'm gonna say he's in turbocharged. The point that I was trying to make earlier is just that like you do wind up having to deal with the ults of the people you're up against a lot more frequently, a lot earlier, because people are more inclined to stick in the lane even when they're level 6 and beyond. So it's shorter, but like proportionally, you're higher level with more gold and you're still in the laning phase. So it's weird. Shadow Demon. A lot of the upside of your Q illusions goes away because of building health. Shadow Demon sort of takes advantage of tier 3s being tanky because he's able to safely siege using the illusions, and you don't really, like, you can still do that, but the benefits aren't nearly as much relative to, like, normal Dota. Your ulti is really good, though. I think he's not so good, just because you lose access to, like, a lot of the utility of Disruption, but there's a lot to still like about Shadow Demon. He has that one skin where he looks like a Blade album cover. Shadow Fiend is kind of weird. He's another like very lane matchup dependent hero. I think ever since Valve made this soul change, he doesn't fall off nearly as hard, which indirectly buffs him. I mean, it's a buff in general, but it really helps him in Turbo in particular because you're dealing more physical damage, and that's a very good thing to deal in Turbo. It's sort of physical is like better in Turbo relative to Magic than it is in normal Dota, just because of the scaling potential and being able to have infinite money. I think, but you do still like your ceiling is still lower, and your ult is like not as impactful because everyone has a BKB. Like everyone, like the Rubik is a BKB in this game mode if they're playing to win. Oftentimes they aren't, but you get the idea. But your lane is good. Your lane is real good. I think he's turbocharged. The weird thing is like you have to sort of play him as a tempo carry. Which, like, you kind of are in normal Dota, but you're like a very late tempo carry. But in Turbo, you kind of have to hit the ground running. Like, you sort of deathball as this hero, which is a very strange thing to do. I think he's turbocharged, but you need to do a lot of changes to the way that you play him in order to make the most of him in Turbo. Shadow Shaman is very good because he takes advantage of the reduced tower, HP, and armor. Smiley face. Emoji. That's really all I have to say. you can beat the side lane bandit a little bit faster. The enemy TP cooldowns are quite low, but also the bot's cooldown is quite low. The problem is your snake's cooldown is not lower, but you have much easier access to things like Refresher and Octarine, which help you become a fucking menace. Earlier I talked about how Klings is a little bit higher because you're able to just wear away at the Ancient because it doesn't heal. Shadow Shaman takes full advantage of that. You bots in, you pop a Smoke of Deceit, you blink in, you snakes, and then you die. But you're able to get the Ancient to like half HP. And so it becomes a matter of like, okay, I'll just do that again. You know, backdoor's a bitch, and it's kind of hard for you to deal with it because you're still squishy, like you're still susceptible because half of your inventory is like Blink, Refresher, Arcane Boots, or no, Bots, and Octarine, maybe. So like it's hard. But the fact that you can create checkmate situations in Turbo so much easier because of the lack of ancient regen makes Shadow Shaman much better. But you have to micro the snakes. You have to micro the snakes. No, Shaman, the snakes are hitting a random position 4. You need to target the ancient. Shaman, please. I want to go smoke more weed after this game is over. Silencer mid is a problem in Turbo. This is kind of similar to AA, but not to the same extent. Being able to just sort of turn your brain off and like throw spells in the enemy mid laner in order to win the lane is very good, especially if they don't go bottle, because they won't have access to more healing as the lane goes on. And it's pretty easy as long as you level the right spell between Last Word and Arcane Curse in order to force them to leave the lane, which is good. And then you go Witchblade, and then you go some kind of mobility, and now you actually hit really hard because pure damage is good. It's the best kind of damage, and you have access to a lot of it if you're playing as a core. Now, if you're playing as a support, I don't think he's nearly as good because the cooldown on Global Silence is so much. You don't get to cast it that often. One of the things I was thinking about in preparation for this tier list is like how many team fights are in a game of Dota, which is like a very simple question, but it's actually really hard to answer because it depends so much on team comp, it depends so much on like team identity, individual playstyles. And the number that I kind of came to was 10 in normal games. Obviously not like full on 5v5s, you know, a 3v3 is a team fight, a 4v3 is a team fight. Hell, a 1v5 can be a team fight if the one guy wins, you know? But the number that I came up with was 10, and then in Turbo you get like 5. And so every single one of those team fights is going to have a massive impact on the outcome of the match. And one of those team fights, if you don't have Global Silence and you're playing as a support silencer, you might as well not be in the game. And those team fights are going to happen more and more frequently. Even though one of the other things about Turbo is that respawn timers are not adjusted, which means that if you and people hit very high levels very quickly and very disjointed as well. You know, their supports might be level 12 and their mid is level 20, which means that if their mid dies, you know, the supports might be up, but there's still going to be like what, 35, 40 seconds where their mid isn't, which creates like some interesting game state situations that don't happen in normal Dota. Silencer does not benefit from this. He is a hero that is kind of hurt by the fact that respawn timers are not nerfed in Turbo. Thank goodness they aren't, by the way. That's kind of something that when Turbo first came out, people complained. They were like, why am I dead for so long? And it's like, so the game can end. If you cut respawn timers in half, or God forbid, into a third, the games would never end. Ever. Dieback? Or you die at level 30 and you're back in 30 seconds? Like, come on, bro. We learned this when they added talents to the game. Reducing fucking with respawn timers is a bad idea. You shouldn't do it. Bring back Necrophos Ags. Skywrath Mage is pretty good. Man. I gave Coddle shit for only doing magical damage and not much else. Skywrath mostly brings the same to the table. The thing is, he dumpsters a lane. He shits on a lane so bad. Even playing as a pause 4. Like, you really get a lot done as Skywrath Mage. And then it's very easy for you because you get more golden XP. You know, you can go for Null Talismans and just rock that for a while and then slowly replace them. And the opportunity cost isn't that big of a deal because you know you're going to get more gold later. So he benefits in some ways quite a bit from Turbo, but he also has the same problem as Kato, which is that he only does magical damage. And like that usually isn't enough to win a game on its own. He does a shitload of it, but it's not enough. You have a silence though, which is cool. Slardar, very good. Slardar is turbocharged for sure. Being able to get access to all of those silly billy items on Slardar that you can't usually justify. Like, you can do the Moonshard bullshit on this hero. You can go Echo Saber, Harpoon, BKB, you get a blink at some point, and then Moonshard. You can do that. And, like, you can, if they don't have, like, a really obvious way to escape, like, you can stunlock an anti-mage. Like, if he doesn't have Manta to pop, or if you're able to just get lucky and keep hitting him, or if you're really good and you notice that the illusions appeared slightly later and you continue to right-click the correct guy, you can stunlock an anti-mage to death because he doesn't have enough time to blink out. Like, you could do some really funny shit with Slardar with access to all of that stuff. I think you need, like, AC Moonshard to do that, actually. But you get the idea. This totally isn't something that happened to me or that I did. No way. That wouldn't happen. Swak. Constant team fights. He benefits a lot from that. Not really countered by items. He also goes in turbocharge. A lot of heroes get better in turbo. A good chunk of heroes get worse. Some stay the same. I do notice the turbocharge is getting a little bit crowded. I don't know if I'm maybe getting a little bit more lenient, but a lot of the big fat wombo combo ultis, I guess, are at the beginning of the alphabet. Get mad at Ice Frog for it. Snapfire is fucked up, man. I don't know if she's quite I think she is. I think she is because the right click stuff that you can do is insane. And then, so it's not just we're gonna start talking about like core Snapfire, like right click Snapfire, because this is a playstyle that you can't really do anymore. We saw it a couple times in like pro level Dota. Shout out to GPK. He lost that game, but he didn't deserve to. But you see them eventually hit this ultra late game setup where they have like Divine Rapier and Daedalus, and it's like you're not just laying into one person. I've talked about how man fighting is like an important thing to consider, but it's really a heavyweight matchup when it comes to Turbo. Snapfire isn't man fighting. She's fighting you and two other people on your team at the same time, and she's winning, which is monstrous. The multi-shot on Little Shredder is so gross in Turbo. It's disgusting. And it really turns games into a bit of a stalemate. You know, back when she was like a kind of niche mid laner pick, she was insane in Turbo. Not only that, but because of the boomstick. What is it called again? Just the shotgun blast? Scatter blast, that's what it's called. That is another reason that made her super good. But on top of enabling this whole new playstyle that's extremely strong and powerful, support Snapfire is also nuts because you get access to like the improved Mortimer's Kisses. Cookie is an amazing spell for team fighting. You're so good at skirmishing. Your sort of problem, which oftentimes is like mana regeneration and positioning when you're not using your ultimate, those like evaporate in Turbo. Like genuinely. You don't need Mortimer's Kisses to fight, but if you do have Mortimer's Kisses, you're gonna win that fight. It's very good. Little Shredder is just broken. I cannot get over it. It's such a broken ability. The facet kind of sucks. Valve really doesn't want people to play Snapfire right click these days, but like it's still pretty crazy if you play it in Turbo. If you want to relive a little bit of that glory day, go into Turbo, pick Snapfire, play your mid, and ping out a Maelstrom, and do your best. That's what really matters. Sniper is quite good as well. The thing about Sniper is like, yes, you do get countered by certain items, but with Sniper, it's sort of a race against time in normal Dota because you need to be able to get on top of him before he's like got his Satanic and his other tank items or his BKB maybe or a Scotty if he wants. And then in Turbo, you're going to get those items pretty quickly. And then on top of that, you can stack the mobility options because you can go Hurricane Pike and have your shard at like 8 minutes if you really want to. Because he's another hero where you can skip Maelstrom if you want. And in Turbo, you want. So at like 8 minutes, if you have a good lane, and you probably will because you're a sniper, you can have Power Treads, Wraithband, Hurricane Pike, Shard. How do you kill that guy? Like, it's really hard. And like, sure, he doesn't do a ton of damage, but he can pick up a Crystallis just fine. Or you can do the Mask of Madness build, and now you do a lot of damage because you hit E and Mask of Madness, and you just lay into people with infinite headshots. You have options of solving that problem. But in most games, that problem doesn't even exist in the first place. And so by the time they do get on top of you and you have your Satanic and everything else, like they're not going to kill you. Straight up. Turbocharged. Sniper is very good. He is a hero that like when we play in a stack, we try to ban him every single game. He is a very good character in Turbo. And not just for like stomping on scrubs, though you can absolutely do that too. Spectre, pretty bad. Pretty bad. It's so much easier to buy breaks. It's so much easier to buy mobility, defensive mobility, and like Nullifier is not enough. Because you will get pause fives buying Shadow Blades if they really know what they're doing, and then they just kind of run away. And that can be quite difficult to deal with, very much so, in fact. But what it really comes down to is just your haunt cooldown, especially now. Back when she had Shadow Step, she'd probably be a not so good for a lot of the other reasons that I said. But now that she has Haunt, no way. She is not suited to a game mode like Turbo. She also needs to go a farming item in some capacity. PA, you'll sometimes see PAs in Turbo skip the Battle Fury entirely and just go like Deso BKB. And you can do that if you want. And like you'll find Juggernauts who go Diffusal Blade instead of a Battle Fury or a Maelstrom. And you can do that if you want. But Spectre, you can't get away with not going a farming item. She's go back to ranked. Where she's quite good right now. Go Phylactery. Spirit Breaker. Don't go Phylactery on him. I know it's funny, but don't do it. He is like also pretty good for a lot of the same reasons that Ogre Magi is. And he's quite good at man fighting, not because of the damage he dishes out, but because of bash and providing sustained methods of breaking through BKB. I think he's turbocharged. I get it, because charge. Get it? It was funny when I said it with Razor. Is it still funny with him? With Barathrum? God, I hate that name. Just being able to dish out that much damage with bash that also stuns, and you can go the bullshit facet, which makes it so you're constantly chain stunning people, which is so obnoxious. You know, he sort of loses out on his strength of being a laning phase dominator. You don't really have to worry too much about that. But you can be super annoying and get out of jail scot-free and do all sorts of stupid bullshit as a core Spirit Breaker that you can't really get away with in normal Dota. And opening up that kind of playstyle and also just having an effect as strong as a bash is a very good thing to have. And it's not just one form of bash either. You have charge, you have bash, you have your ulti. So you poop on BKBs and you do all sorts of funny things. Turbocharge. It's just you lose the weakness of the strength of your laning phase and your roaming ability, but you make up for it in other ways. So turbocharged. Storm Spirit, he's an S. Gonna be up here with the other spirits. He is a monster. I keep talking about how like mid laners have proportionally way more XP in Turbo. Storm Spirit is the best at taking advantage of that. Almost, well, Nature's Prophet kind of. Nature's Prophet needs the gold too, though. And you can, in theory, like, well, you can't really shit on him to the point where he doesn't have a mid game. But Storm takes advantage of the XP alone the best. Because he can have a shit lane. You can go up against Nature's Prophet. He gets plenty of golden XP in that matchup, I think. But as long as you get your XP and you're able to get like a couple of Galvanized stacks, you are a problem. You have access to all of the really crazy items. You hit level 25 and you get the what's it called? The right click effect that he gets, the thing that makes it bounce. You get that and you just evaporate people. I mean, seriously. If you've never seen a Storm Spirit get that talent with like a right click focus build like a Parasma, it just, where do you go? He zips on you, electric vortex attack, remnant attack, and you all die. Like, it doesn't amount of damage that doesn't make sense. And you get access to the Agnum Scepter, which makes you an incredibly strong team fighter. You're amazing in skirmishes. You can be anywhere. All of the fun items that you want to get. You're amazing at carrying Scythe. You can go Parasma. BKB is no big deal for you to farm up. Kaya is fantastic. There's so much stuff that you get to do with Storm Spirit, and it's so fun. That's the thing that really pushes him up. It's so fun. And you're great at ganking. Supersonic Racing. Up here with his Spirit brothers. Sven. This tier list is winding up a lot longer than I thought it would be. He's the same. He brings the exact same things to the table. Physical damage, which scales, which is fantastic. He's not limited by damage, he's limited by attack speed. This is a big brain thing. You bring the exact same shit to the table that you always do. You're very good at clearing stacks, which is nice, but that's also an advantage that you have in normal Dota. In Turbo, it's slightly amplified, but I don't think it's enough to put him up higher. And your lane is like, eh. But you can also recover from that lane by farming those ancient stacks. So, you know, same. Different. Hello, Grimstroke. Techies. Oh, man. I was not looking forward to this. This is one of the heroes that I thought about when it came, because I was like, being able to do new playstyles is important for Turbo. Techies can do a very interesting new playstyle. Right-click Techies is very real. I can't remember the name of the facet. But you can do the thing where it converts attack speed to attack range, and you can wind up just like blasting people from a million years away. And it's annoying. The thing is, it's another case of like physical damage man fighting, and you're not that good at man fighting, not because you can't deal damage, you certainly can, but you also can't like he gets a whole new playstyle, and I still think it's not so good. He loses the man fighting not for lack of damage, but for lack of man. He's not. He got that soft body. You just hit him a few times, and like the disarm is whatever. And if you're playing techies with the intent of doing this, you probably don't even know how to use your disarm. So, you know. TA, a lot of the same advantages that Sven has, but she hits the point where she falls off a little bit faster. But her lane is quite good, and having a good lane is important. So, changes. It's different. Different. But same. Terrorblade. pretty shitty because of Metamorphosis. Gonna go back to ranked. The illusion bounties is like not a huge deal because it's so small relative to a lot of the other characters. And the illusions themselves can kind of get to the point where they have hands, and so killing them is like not the easiest thing in the world. But also just having to play around Metamorphosis, same issue. It's the exact same as Faceless Void and Enigma and a lot of the other Wombo Combo and Doom. You just don't get enough metas. You don't get enough to make Terrorblade feel good, and therefore he's bad. And your macro game, similar to the way that Naga Siren's macro is like not conducive towards success in Turbo, you have kind of the same issue. If anything, even more so. And you need a lot of golden XP in order to deal with the amount of golden XP that they get. You know, the upside of this is that you don't really fall off as Terrorblade. You can dish out so much physical damage that, like, you can kind of go toe-to-toe with Medusa if you go the right build, even though your illusions will no longer help burn mana. But it's just meta. It's just meta. That's all it comes down to. You can go Ags if you want. It's funny. Tidehunter is interesting. So you would think that, like, oh, same problem as these other heroes that, like, Terrorblade I just talked about. But actually, Tidehunter makes up for it by having all of his other spells do so much better. You go Crew Leader, for sure, because it's tied to your level, and the numbers don't change, and so you're able to scale so much faster as Tidehunter. And then you wind up becoming this, like, right-click, ultra-tanky core that is, like, less focused on Ravage. You don't really see, like, Refresher and Octarine, but you will see Satanics quite a bit, even if the rest of your kit is just auras. Having access to that kind of lifesteal will basically perpetually keep you in the game, and that's a very good thing. So I think he winds up in turbocharged, despite the fact that he has, like, the Doom Enigma thing going on. So he's in turbocharged because the rest of his kit becomes so goddamn powerful, particularly Anchor Smash, but also Gush. Timber. He's a weird one, man. Pure damage is great, but it's pure damage that is capped, but stat reduction is also very good. But they get dispels and your axe doesn't do anything. They can get breaks a lot easier. You're answered by a lot of items, and that's a bad thing to be. But your lane is very good, and you wind up buying a shitload of those funny items that you get to use before they buy the answers for it. So you get your Aghanim Scepter immediately, you're going to win a team fight as Timbersaw. And when there's only 5 team fights a game, winning a team fight is a good thing to do. So I think he goes in the same but different. He's not actually that different. It's just strength and weaknesses amplified, like a couple of the other heroes here. Dinker. Dinker's like kind of shit, mostly for the macro reasons. Being able to shove waves and consolidate farm in normal Dota is like a good thing to do. But in Turbo, you're also taking a lot of things away. And then another element of Turbo that I haven't even talked about up until this point is the fact that buyback costs are out of this world. They look like single-family home prices in the United States. Shit's insanity. Like, in normal Dota, if you're like max build, you can expect at the most extreme level to spend like 2,600 gold on buyback. Or like, I think it scales all the way up to 3,500. I think that's like the max. In Turbo, your buyback will be like 7k. Like, and you think to yourself like, oh, well, of course it is, because like the gold is, you have more access to it. So like it's basically the same as saving up for buyback. But you have to remember that in Turbo, no one is saving for buyback. People would rather just lose and queue up again because the games are short enough that you can kind of get away with that idea. And then on top of that, if you have 3,000 gold in the late game, in a normal game of Dota, there's nothing to do. You can buy Shard if you don't have it yet, but like there's not really anything you can buy with that 3,000 gold once the late game rolls around because all your item slots are full. You know, upgrade Yules to Wind Waker is like almost what you can do, but even then, 3,000 gold is not enough for that. So you save for buyback on accident just because you run out of shit to buy. 7,000 gold is like a rapier. Like, so you buy it. You never accidentally have buyback in Turbo, and I think that's intentional. I think Valve kind of wants it to be the case that people don't buy back in Turbo, really. If they ever removed buyback from Turbo, I would know for a fact that they were testing trying to remove buyback from the normal game. That would be the testing ground for it. But as weird as it is, I kind of wouldn't mind. Like, getting rid of buyback in Turbo would make the games even faster, which is the point of it. Like, that's why you queue up for Turbo, is for fast games. And to fuck around. The reason Tinker is not so good, and this is the reason I brought up the whole buyback thing, is because when you die once as Tinker, you have to buy back. right? You have to buy back or you lose the game because you've consolidated all of the farm onto you. You were like kind of the star of the show of your team. And a 4v5 with a team that is sort of being starved out by their own Tinker, the 5 is going to win that 90% of the time. So you have to buy back as Tinker. And that's a shitload of gold. And then if you die again as Tinker, you lose. And that's true in normal Dota. But just not having access to buyback nearly as much, both due to like literal reasons and also like psychological reasons, is a big part of why Tinker is like not as good. That and just his macro is not as good either. It's very beneficial when you're playing in Turbo to play like TI3 Alliance, where everyone on your team has the same net worth. Which, it's a slight exaggeration, but the idea is there. That's a much better way to play the game in Turbo, and Tinker is the opposite of that idea. So he's in not so good between that and the buyback interactions and the macro game and a bunch of other reasons. He's not quite in go back to ranked, but like he's kind of dumpy. Tiny. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I think he brings a lot of the same ideas to the table. He's very good at skirmishing. You don't have to worry about your ult cooldown. You can do a bunch of dumb shit and it's okay. I think he's in turbocharged. Maybe I did get a little bit more lenient with turbocharged, but that's fine. The cool thing about Tiny is that you can kind of skip to the good parts where you get huge. You can get, bro, you're looking huge. Ladies, what's up? I think he does a really good job of sort of demonstrating how weird the balance of Turbo can be, but not in a way that is bad. You just gain access to your ultimate, which is a passive and you don't have to worry about the cooldowns, and you get all of those benefits so much faster. And then if you're playing as like a Tiny mid, especially if you're in a good matchup, which are rare, that's rare for Tiny and Turbo to have a good matchup, but I'm sure someone's done it. You can really run away with the game on this hero, and then you can always just go Ags and chuck trees, which is funny. Treant Protector. I don't think he's that good. One of the things that Treant can do very uniquely is living armor on towers in order to keep them alive. And that's a very powerful thing to do. But because towers have lower health and armor, you might think to yourself, like, oh, I can heal them back up to full faster. But what it really means is that if people come to hit your towers, like after the laning phase, they're gonna kill your tower. Towers exist in a much more binary state in the context of Turbo. And that means that one of Treant's strongest things, a thing that really only he can do consistently, doesn't matter. And that takes away a lot from his kit. Eyes of the Forest is cool. That's fine. Your ultimate is good, but it's got a stupidly long cooldown. Well, not that stupidly long, but it's long. And on top of that, unlike Ravage, because it stuns, you can just pop a Manta, or you can pop a BKB, or you can self-dispel. And you can buy items to deal with it. So there's a couple different factors that make him worse in Turbo than in normal Dota. I'm sure many people have attempted to get to the Aghanim Scepter and play like Echo Saber bullshit Treant Protector, and I'm sure that their orchards have bared fruit. He's a tree. Troll Warlord is actually better in Turbo, and I'm not just being a troll fanboy here. The reason he's better is because you get access to that level 25 talent so much faster, and that's one of the best level 25 talents in the game. Being able to use your ultimate, regardless of whether you are disabled, is a very strong thing. Now, keep in mind that really only refers to stuns. There's a couple of other situations where you can do it, but if they hex you or they silence you, you still can't do it, which sucks. But being able to access this makes it so much harder in order to burst Troll. And that alone makes him extremely good. Being able to access, there are entire games of Dota where you play as Troll Warlord and you're just like, I just gotta make it to 25, man. I just gotta make it to 25. And in Turbo, it makes it so much easier to do that. So I think that alone helps him quite a bit. And then on top of that, you're a carry that can fight relatively early. You sort of really want BKB before you show up, but you also farm stupidly fast, and you have a really good lane, generally. Being able to have the slow and the blind in quick succession matters quite a bit. So I'm going to put him in turbocharged. And I'm not being a fanboy. And if you accuse me of that, shut up. Dusk. You can... The problem with Turbo Tusk is it's leaking into real Dota, and it makes me uncomfortable. I've had like multiple games this patch where I've had like a mid or an offlane Tusk go like Desolator, and it's like, what are you doing, buddy? Like, when the melee creeps gave you 35 gold, that wasn't enough to signal to you that we're playing normal Dota. I think he's mostly the same. It's just you go an alternate build that isn't particularly good. But you get the crit option of being able to like walrus punch someone 4 times in a row, and like that's pretty good. Um, Support Tusk is like arguably worse though, I think. You know, he is a skirmishing hero. I don't know. He's weird. He's weird. I don't see a whole lot of Tusk in Turbo. He's another hero that kind of requires your brain, and people don't like that. I'm gonna put him in same but different, but like you could put him in turbocharged because he gets access to a new build, and I wouldn't smite you. Underlord. Man. You just want a grill if you're playing this hero in Turbo. You probably didn't want to play Dota, but your friends like wanted you to play Dota with them, and so you're here. I think he's fine. He's the same like aura carrying. You know, your macro loses a little bit of viability, but you can build all of your silly little Underlord items just as well. I don't think that right click Underlord is valid even in Turbo. I know a guy played it at the International in an elimination match. Wait, was it? The Crystallis game? Where he played carry Underlord? Was that elimination, or did he play Juggernaut in the elimination game like everyone else? Who cares? I don't think there's anything really special about Underlord in Turbo, and then the right click idea of him is like not particularly impressive either. You know, it's probably a little bit better just because you can get AC and Harpoon faster, but like, I don't know, what if you just bought items that were good instead? He's gonna go same but different. And that's exactly what Underlord players want. Undying. Whew, he does some bullshit. You know, he and his innate kind of deal with the buyback situation that I just talked about because you don't have to save for buyback. You just have to not die for a couple minutes. And you know, the relative value of that compared to a normal game of Dota, it's sort of hard to measure because in a normal game of Dota, there are more minutes where you can be alive to wait for your free buyback to happen. But then in Turbo, you know, but he stomps the lane. You just get less time to use that innate in Turbo, which kind of makes it worse. But also, the buyback is so shitty that like having it for free on a cooldown is like kind of insane. Also, and the lane is really good, and you like scale. Undying scales now. Have you guys noticed this? Have you seen this shit? This hero scales. Same but different. Different strengths, different benefits. Undying wins the lane in normal Dota anyway. Ursa. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Man fighting is a very important thing. Ursa fights the man, and he wins. Being able to deal theoretically infinite physical damage in a single attack is like a pretty good thing to be able to do. And then he cares a lot about Roche. There was a hero I talked about earlier when I was bringing up how the Roche mechanics in Turbo work, but it is quite notable that Roche respawns faster, and while Aegis is a shorter duration, the amount of time proportional to the amount of time you can hold an Aegis proportional to the amount of time you cannot hold an Aegis is higher in Turbo. You get more Aegises. More Aegis per Aegis. Well, actually, you get less Aegis per Aegis. But you get more Aegises overall. Ursa likes that. He really likes that. And he can solo it pretty consistently with any source of lifesteal, even a little bit from a neutral item. So, and you know, it's also a case of people being, you know, they're off the molly water. They're not paying the most attention. So you can like just blink in a Roche pit at any given time, and 30 seconds later, walk out with an Aegis. It's a pretty good thing. Turbocharge. Venge. Oh, Core Venge. Core Venge was a strat that started in Turbo for us and then quickly graduated into real Dota. I think she benefits a lot because of the core playstyle, but then like support Venge is like the same but different because your ulti cooldown isn't that big of a deal. But being able to like play this sort of like insane scaling offlaner who also kind of gets free buyback, but like not really. It's just the illusion, and the illusion isn't quite as good as your hero because it takes more damage, but you also get a free refresher. And I think she winds up being in turbocharge. Just she's on the edge, but then having the mechanic that sort of dodges buyback does a lot for her. So we're gonna put her in turbocharged. And then when you do buyback, it's one of the best buybacks in the game because you get 4 Venges to deal with, which is annoying. Or I guess like 3.8 if you want to account for the damage intake. Oh, we're getting close to the end. Still quite a few to go. I'll tell you right now, I don't really know what to do with Largo. Also, stop commenting asking where like Dawnbreaker is. Like she's gonna be at the end. I didn't make this tier list, guys. I promise. Venomancer. Venomancer is I mean the Ags build is like I'm not impressed. And like he can farm, but he doesn't bring anything to the table aside from like dealing damage, which is like not great. I think he's in not so good, even though like on paper you think he would be good. But like the Ags right click build on him is like a joke. It's not good. Like I promise. You know, for every debuff you buy, that's a Daedalus you didn't buy. You know what I mean? I know it sounds dumb, but like it really is. Like you're buying all of these debuff items, but you could have just bought right click items on any other hero and have done the same amount of damage, and then you're also not a weak little bitch, and you can't buy defensives. BKB does not apply a debuff to enemy heroes, unfortunately. So you can't justify that shit either. You can't buy Manta because it doesn't do that. So like the alt build idea that you can have in this game mode is like bad. And then Venomancer himself is like, eh. You just sort of get bursted, and then like, yeah, boy preggers, haha. But also like it's a flat amount of magical damage that doesn't scale very well. The slow is cool, but like just buy Boots of Bearing, LMAO. Viper. He's weird. He's kind of the same. It's just that like all of his traits are amplified. He owns the lane very hard, it's true. And he can take good advantage of that, and he can be a little bit tanky in the early game, and you can do shit like Mage Slayer, Eternal Shroud, and walk around BKB'd the entire game because you have 80% magical resistance. But also, someone hits you and you die, and you fall off very quickly. You know, back when you had the talent where you could become a universal hero at level 25, which was such a weird talent, that was cool. That was cool, and you could scale really well as like a physical damage dealing core on top of all the magical damage that you already dealt. But nowadays, that is obviously not an option. Visage. One of my New Year's resolutions is to start saying his name properly, and I think that's it. If it's not, I'm screwed because I've been saying it like that for like a couple weeks now. Actually, that's not true. I bungled it in the last tier list. Whatever. It's my new resolution that I made up. Soul Assumption. My hated. For some, it's beloved. For me, I hate it. Soul Assumption is very... Well, hold up. You can kill the babies. You can murder those babies, dude, and they give so much gold. They give like 300 gold each, and so... He kind of balances out because Soul Assumption and its impact on the lane is crazy. But also, the facet that gives you bonus gold when you kill people with Soul Assumption doesn't scale with Turbo, so you don't get bonus gold on top of what you would usually get in a normal game. Being able to kill the babies and get a shitload of gold as a result of it is what actually pushes Visage down here, because that is a massive vulnerability, and it's sort of something you want to do anyway. When you play against Lycan in the late game, you don't really care that much about the wolves. If you picked alpha wolves, yeah, you would like to kill them because they're somehow stunning you through BKB. What the hell? But with Visage, I'm backsliding. I'm back to Lord forgive me. I'm back to the old me. You want to kill the babies anyway. It's a very important priority. And you're rewarded very handsomely for doing that, as if you weren't handsomely rewarded already by the babies being dead. So that's a major downside. Visage is going to go in same but different. This is also how I describe the way I pronounce his name. Both ways are same but different. Void Spirit. Been a little bit since we had a guy up here, I think. He is insane in Turbo. If you would like to become a Spirits player, I'm telling you this right now. If you want to make that step and you want to be a mid player who picks the Spirits, queue for Turbo, pick Void Spirit. You will thank me later. Yes, the matchups will be difficult to learn, and you don't win all of them, but you are so good at hitting level 6 and just killing whoever is across the lane. And you will take a lot of harass for it, but in the majority of lanes, if you're not playing against cheese like Viper or something, you will have an XP advantage. And you can exploit that. Buy a bunch of mangoes, throw them out, eat them all, hit 6, and with a belly full of fruit, you dive into the fucking fray, and you will oftentimes get a solo kill on the enemy mid laner if you have a level advantage. And even if you don't, you can probably still box with them at the very least and really test your skills. Amazing at ganking, has a lot of tools that you can't buy. Really nothing on his kit. You could argue that the circle that you do for the shield, because all of his abilities have weird names and I can't always remember them, please be nice. Is it Dissimulate? No, Dissimulate is circles on the ground. This is circle in the air. Circle around the hips, the hula hoop. Whatever that's called. You know, you could argue that that's just tank and a little bit of damage, but also you buy an Aghanim Scepter and it's a fat AoE silence that you have 2 charges of that also makes you tankier. So there's a lot to love about Void Spirit in Turbo. And he's very fun to play. Having that XP advantage on this hero is so fun. And there's a ton of different items that you can go because he's a universal hero. So you can go for like an Orchid, you can go for like Desolator, you can go for I actually really like the Desolator Manta BKB Bloodthorn. That's like a really or Basher Bloodthorn, that's what you do. Not BKB. You don't go BKB on this hero in Turbo. Don't do it. Use it to train your mechanics. There's a bunch of different ideas you can do. Void Spirit in Turbo is one of my favorite things to do in all of Dota. Strongly, strongly, strongly recommend. Great way to begin like learning the more complex mid heroes. You are playing with training wheels on, but like that's fine. One day you'll learn how to ride the bike. Warlock. Another hero that I think is way better because you can go Girls Night and it doesn't feel as silly. You can go Girls Night as like a default strategy every game in Turbo. You know, the downside, like you can't do Midas, but you can farm quite a bit as Warlock. You can just go to an empty lane and then, you know, farm 2 waves and like boom, that's a piece of your ags. You win a team fight, that's half of your refresher, or I guess a third now. And then you just sort of repeat that process. Then eventually you have Girls Night. And the fact that buildings are squishier means that 4 golems ends the game. Straight up. Ends the game. Fun little story about this. I remember we were once playing, I was playing Girls Night Warlock, and I sort of became our primary win condition because we had megas, but like their ancient hold was so good. And they had a Doom. And the Doom was dooming me of all the heroes in order to prevent me from doing all my bullshit. So what I did is I popped all of my rocks outside of the enemy's vision from their base and then walked up, he doomed me, and then I microed the golems into the ancient anyway. So I tanked Doom for my team, and they sort of acted as the offensive line to help the golems get into the ancient. And, you know, I've played thousands and thousands of games of Dota, but some of them you're always going to remember, and that's one of the ones that I will. Outplaying the Doom by casting my ultimate in advance before walking up. Dota's a beautiful game, man. I love Warlock. That's why I made so many videos about him on this channel. Weaver. Weaver's quite good. You know, his ceiling is a little bit lower than a lot of the other carries on this list, but one of the things that makes him so good is that you get a little bit of an advantage on him and you can push it like crazy. I mean, you can just one-shot people. You get like Chrysalis Desolator and you Geminate attack on a Crystal Maiden and she doesn't even have time to react. And Bugs is very strong. Support Weaver is a total ass meme, and I wish I could make everyone forget about it. But people still pick it in my ranked matches on my team and against me. It's annoying, but it doesn't win games. Stop doing it. In Turbo, though, this shit is ballin'. It is bussin'. You can fight a lot in the lane. You're very comfortable doing so. Your ultimate is very high impact. You have a couple of different things that you can't really buy. Geminate attack is just a ranged Echo Saber. Show me in the shop the Echo Saber that works on ranged heroes. Go ahead. No, you can't. Oh, riddle me that. He's very good. He's very good. Just being able to deal a metric shitload of physical damage. And then you get the triple Geminate attack, and then you really blow people up even in the late game. Wind Ranger. She's good. She's good. The answers are easier to buy. But you yourself get a Javelin at like 3 minutes, which is a great thing to have. You go Brown Boots Javelin and prepare to get your ulti. A little bit like Void Spirit in the sense that like once you hit 6, there's a lot of matchups where you kind of just run at them until they die, which is a great thing to be able to do. So, same, but different. Wyvern. Not a whole lot of team fights in this game. You fuck up one of them, it's pretty bad. Core Wyvern is like still not a thing in Turbo. It used to be a thing in normal Dota. Shout out to 9 from Tundra. But it is no longer really a thing. I think on balance, she's like not so good. Because you fuck up one thing and it's over. It's so over. Like even more so than it usually is in a normal game. And then on top of that, you don't really have the option to scale the way a lot of other supports do. So you're sort of missing out on the fun. You know, you're Squidward in the window. And you're looking down on Lion and Warlock having the time of their lives. And you're like, oh, that should be me. But it's not you. It's not. Because you picked Wyvern. Witch Doctor, holy moly. I think he's in Supersonic Racing too. Is he our 10th? He's probably our 10th and final member of the Supersonic Racing Association. Being able to very consistently get access to Aghanim Scepter on this hero is ridiculous. You deal a ridiculous amount of pure damage. Maledict is broken. Coconut is a very strong spell, and your W is nuts too. all of your spells, once you get enough golden XP, especially with your talents, because Witch Doctor's talents are insane. Once you hit that certain point, you should kind of just win. Like, as long as your team doesn't immediately fold over and die to like some wombo combo where you never get to interact with the enemy team and all their clarities would still be active at the end of the fight, as long as that isn't happening, you just win. Keep the Witch Doctor safe. That can be a bit of a tall order, but that much pure damage going to the entire enemy team at the same time, good luck, dude. It's really hard. And you have the Gree, so like even in a bad game, you still have the potential to like bust out and let that chopper sing, which is great. He is a member of the Supersonic Racing Association. When we play, we oftentimes try to ban Witch Doctor, and if anyone forgets, we try to pick him, and then we find out the enemy team picked him, and we're like, oh shit, someone picked Silencer. Very, very good hero in Turbo. One of the best supports to play in Turbo. Very, very fun. And you don't even have to play them. Like, some of the other supports up here are frauds because you're not playing them as supports. Nyx, Snapfire, AA. Nyx is kind of a weird case, but like these two, you're playing them as cores. That's why they're up here. Witch Doctor, you just play him as a 5. You buy wards. You still buy wards on this hero, and he's still a problem. All right, Wraith King. He's like kind of shitty. It's another case of having a super long ulti cooldown where you don't get to use it super often, and then also you don't bring a whole lot to the table that you can't just buy. Your Q, you can buy an Abyssal Blade. Your crit, you can buy a Daedalus. Your ulti, I mean, you can go get Aegis, but, the idea is just not that great. With an Aegis and a Shiva's Guard, you have Aegis, you're about to die, you cast your Shiva's Guard, you've basically recreated Wraith King ulti. There's really not that much of a difference. You can't refresh her in Aegis, I guess, but you get the idea. He's not very good in Turbo for a couple different reasons. Zeus. The reason you pick Zeus is for his really stable lane matchup and highly predictable output of magic damage. Stable lanes are good. Large output of magical damage, not so much. And you fall off. And they buy a pipe and you lose. I think Zeus is in not so good. He's playable, if you really want to, if you need that Atlas sticker. And now we have the DLC, which you do not actually have to pay for these characters. I've been calling them that, and there has been some confusion in the comment section. Hoodwink. I mean, you can do the physical damage nutshot build, and it's a lot better. You still buy a Maelstrom because you're a little dork. I was gonna say another word. She's probably in turbocharged if you go that route. If you go the more traditional support Hoodwink, it's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you here? You shouldn't be doing that. But the days of yore when you would go Gleipnir on this hero that irrevocably broke the brains of position 4 players, never to be repaired. You can get a little bit of taste of that. Same thing as the Snapfire mid Glorious. You can kind of recreate that in part and then bring it all together in Turbo. So Hoodwink is going to go in turbocharge, but you need to be an idiot. You need to be an idiot to make the most of her. Don't take the lessons you learned back to your ranked matches, though. Dawnbreaker, pretty good. Her ability to deal a shitload of physical damage in a very unique way, I think, is highly beneficial. And then her ultimate is very good for the fights. And it does have a significant cooldown, but it's like enough, Win or lose, by the time everyone is like respawned and spreading out in order to start a new fight, it's usually back up again. It's not quite the same as like a lot of the other wombo combo ultis, and it's very complementative to any of those wombo combo ultis as well. It also counters them. It's just sort of, it's a great thing to have. She's going to go in turbocharged. This Dawnbreaker character we call Dawnbreaker. Marcy, a lot of physical damage, very good man fighter. Doesn't bring a ton of utility to the table, but you can flip like burger. Huh. I think she's like the same. It's mostly the same. She scales very good. Support Marcy is probably a little bit better because you can skip your veggies and just go straight for like, you can have like, yeah, I'm playing Pause 4 and you have like Phase Boots, a Basher, and some Sentries. Like, you could do that on Marcy if you want in Turbo. It's probably not the best way to win a game in Dota, but you can do anything you want if you really want. It doesn't have to make sense to anyone. It just has to make sense to you because you're the one doing it. Primal Beast is quite good. A lot of that is owed to his Aghanim Scepter. You know, it's funny. I keep talking about like abilities you can't recreate in the shop. And like in this case, you actually do have to go to the shop in order to create this ability, but it's an Aghanim Scepter, so it's fine. Break is a weird thing. AoE breaks are not a thing. Like it's him and Phantom Assassin with Fan of Knives, and like that's it. That's the only thing I can think of. I'm sure I'm missing one, but like I don't know. I think that alone makes him pretty good. And then on top of that, you are godlike at skirmishing, and the triple power bomb has a very low cooldown, so you can do it multiple times in a fight sometimes if it's really protracted. He's in turbocharged. He's in turbo. Not a whole lot of items counter him too. He's another hero that's sort of countered by heroes. Lifestealer in particular. Muerta is very good for the same reason. Wow, a lot of the newer heroes are like good in turbo. I wonder what that means. Ringmaster won't be here, I'll tell you that much. Muerta is really good because she's very similar to Drow in that you get to sort of skip the power valley. You know, you go your Mjolnir, you go your Hurricane Pike, you go BKB, you show up and you fight, and you can get all of those things very fast because she farms relatively quickly. You know, you're kind of a bitch for the first like 10 minutes of a turbo match. Your first ulti on Muerta sucks. I think there's actually merit in skipping ulti on Muerta, both in normal Dota and in turbo, just in order to get another point in Gunslinger, which is probably a more effective DPS increase, honestly, at that point. Because heroes have low armor anyway. I haven't done the math on that or anything, but it sounds right to me, and that means it probably is, because I'm very smart and handsome too. Muerta being able to skip the Power Valley is a very big deal for her as a character. So she goes into turbocharged, and then you get your Daedalus, and then wham, you win the game. Ringmaster is like pretty shitty. He does not really have the ability to turn into a cool pseudo core the way a lot of other good supports do, but you're also not baited into doing it in any way. Your game doesn't really change as Ringmaster. You just buy more defensive items. He's like pretty boring. You know, we're here based on how good they are. And Ringmaster himself is fun, but Turbo doesn't change your experience very much at all. It's probably harder to get good escape acts off because people die faster, but like that's whatever. And then it gets dispelled. And you don't have any like crazy level 25 talents or anything like that in order to help. I think he might be go back to ranked just because like of how disappointing he is. We're gonna keep him here based on like quality of gameplay experience, but like part of me wants to put him in here just so that there's 10 and 10 at the top of the and the bottom of the tier list. So I was right earlier because I'm very smart and I'm very handsome. Kez is pretty good. I mean, we talked all about how dealing an insane amount of physical damage is very strong. The problem with him is like you're susceptible to burst. You can dish out a shitload of physical, but you sure as hell can't take it. And then a lot of the heroes that gain access to really big magical burst gain access to it just fast enough to be able to outscale you and murder the shit out of you once they pop a BKB. Like Alina or something like that can actually kind of handle you. Unless you get Raptor Dance off, in which case, well, what happens, happens. The die is cast when Kez hits the R button. So he's going to go in turbocharged because he has access to all of that amazing physical damage and a lot of utility and a lot of things that money can't buy. But the things that money can buy for Kez are just not quite as impactful as they are for a lot of other heroes. Lord knows Refresher Kez has probably got like 4 games on it and a 100% win rate. And Largo. Man, I don't really know. Part of me doesn't want to rate him. I think having access to like certain parts of his kit are like useless. Having a dispel in the lane is nice, but it matters more in normal Dota than in Turbo. In Turbo, you can kind of just grin and bear it until you're able to jungle, which you can usually pretty fast, so there's fewer opportunities to use the lick in a conducive to success way. And then your team fighting is like good, but not great. And then in terms of damage, you bring basically nothing to the table. Like you have a little bit of control, which is good, but you also don't bring enough control to be amazing. You know, the saving grace for you in Largo, and I'll be honest and say that I haven't seen him much, and if I had the option to not do it, I would just not rate him, but we are a channel with zero integrity, so we are going to state opinions that we don't have 100% confidence in. Being able to buff the damage output of your allies with one of his songs, and being able to also buff their damage output with Croak of Genius, is good. But a couple of his other traits are not as good. We're gonna put him in same but different, but I've probably played like 4 games of Turbo with Largo ever. I have not played him very much myself, so I don't have very strong opinions on him, which is weird. Usually when new heroes come out, everyone has something to say. But I feel like Largo just kind of came and went. He just sort of immediately got integrated into the Dota community. And I think a funny kind of symptom of that is the fact that he's already available in Captain's Mode. I still can't get over that. Like, pretty much as soon as it was possible for him to be put in Captain's Mode, they did it, which is weird. A lot of the other new heroes, like TI came and went, and like Monkey King, I think, wasn't available in Captain's Mode. The Kez wasn't available in Captain's Mode for like several months. A really long time, actually. Kez was not available in Tournament. That's why it was such a big deal when he was there, because everyone wanted to see. And then the guy from Na'Vi, I think it was Got the Juice, he showed everyone what a Kez could do, and it was fun to see. And now there's a bunch of really good Kez players out there. So here's the Turbo tier list. This video was long. I wasn't expecting it to be this long. It's probably going to be a little bit over 2 hours or so. Well, I did promise a long one. Supersonic Racing is the top tier. These are heroes that either gain access to incredibly powerful alt builds or are just perfectly suited to the mechanical changes. All of the spirits are up here. Nyx Assassin is up here because it's funny. Nature's Prophet is up here for his stat gain. Witch Doctor is up here for his insane ultimate scaling. And the rest of the heroes are up here because they're supports who become top tier mid laners in the context of Turbo. This is kind of the top 10, of Turbo heroes. A Turbo match featuring all 10 of these heroes would be difficult to draft and difficult to play, but it would definitely be a very high-powered experience. Turbocharged are heroes that improve, but not to the same degree. So these are characters that can take advantage of the context of Turbo. They benefit more from having Golden XP, but they don't gain access to insanely game-changing builds, or those that do would have access to them in normal Dota, but here they're better. Like Crystal Maiden's a good example of that. You get to be an evil baby. They're also heroes that scale based on things that you cannot replicate in the shop or in aggregate from other things. So like Lion's CC output with like the 30-degree cone stun, or like Shadow Shaman's chain stun, or they're really good at certain win conditions. That's also why Shadow Shaman is here. In Turbo, the Ancient doesn't heal. So you can pick away at it by just dropping snakes on it over and over again and dying in the process. But hey, the goal is to win, not to live. Kez is here too. Hello, Kez. Hello. That's what he sounds like. Same, but different are heroes that like effectively balance out to be about as good in Turbo as they are in normal Dota. Some of them are here because they're very draft dependent. So who you're going up against, or who counters you, do you counter someone? And then the draft in Turbo is blind, which matters a lot for that. And then a couple of others, their strengths are amplified, like Viper. His lane is extremely good, and he will make the enemy mid cry. But his weakness of like falling off and being vulnerable to certain types of damage, that's there too. And because it's Turbo, that damage is going to come even faster. There's a couple heroes that I'm not 100% sure about that I also put in here. Largo is one of those heroes. Hello. Not so good. These are heroes that are worse in the context of Turbo. These basically bring nothing so special to the table. Some of them have really long cooldowns. Some of them fall off a little bit too early. There's just a couple different reasons why a hero could be here. Sometimes they have mechanical overlap with what happens in Turbo. Sometimes they have to buy a shitty item. Alchemist gets enough money already from Turbo that the benefits of Grievel's Greed aren't a huge deal, though he benefits from it in some ways as well. Arc Warden has to buy a Hand of Midas, and that item is shit in Turbo. Tinker doesn't really fit the macro ideas of Turbo very much. Neither does Naga Siren, neither really does Meepo. And go back to Ranked, these are heroes that you should not pick in Turbo, for any variety of reasons. Some of them have absolutely zero benefits from the way that Turbo works. Some of them are completely dedicated to long, drawn-out games. A good chunk of them just have ridiculously long cooldowns. Enigma's here, Doom is here, Spectre's here, Terrorblade is here, Night Stalker. The Sun is a cooldown. Never forget. The government will not tell you this. So there you go. That is the tier list for Turbo, and you can expect more videos about Turbo. At least one. I might have a third one cooking, but I haven't decided yet. Sometime later this week. Thank you very much for watching, and peace on planet Earth.